It's the final day of preliminaries in the Airthings Masters. 8 players will leave us and 8 will go through to the knockout stage. We are ready for an exciting day. Welcome everyone to the Airthings Masters.
Maybe has he tricked the world champion? This is going to be checkmate on the board. Magnus Carlsen blundered his queen again. Second game in a row. He's just played a losing blunder, Artemiev. It's completely changed in one move.
3 seconds, 3 seconds.
Levon, he's pre-moving everything. He's down to less than 1 second. Oh no, surely not.
We've seen a mouse slip, Kaja.
No! Oh!
We have some anger.
Wow! Whoa! Wow, look at that! Magnus Carlsen in Armageddon.
Look at this from Nakamura, a massive blunder. And Giri celebrates, takes the win.
Magnus, congratulations so much on winning the tour overall. So much is at stake today. 8 players will leave the Airthings Masters and 8 players will go through to the knockout stage with quarterfinals starting tomorrow. And joining us in the studio today, finally, it's Ginger GM Simon Williams. So nice to have you back here, Simon.
It's great to be back. Last time was the World Championships, and the time limit's quicker, and it's a great day to join the commentary.
Definitely. It's speedier, so much at stake today. What do you think of the tournament so far with the new format and these young fighting players?
It's been great. I mean, you've got some exciting players. I've been following Erik Hansen, and then you've got obviously the big guys like Magnus and Jan at the top there. So, but yeah, today only 3 games and half the field go through. So, looking forward to looking at the games.
Yeah, there must be some big nerves out there in the world today, David. Hardly anyone can feel safe.
That's right, only one player at the moment is safe. That is Jan-Krzysztof, the leader. He's through no matter what. But the rest of the guys, they will be fighting out for those remaining 7 qualification spots. And even names such as Magnus Carlsen will not feel safe to qualify for those knockouts.
Oof, intense. And Jovanka, who are the fans out there? Who are they rooting for to make it through?
Well, there are 2 names that particularly stick out. The first one is streamer's favourite, Erik Hansen. Everyone is enamoured by his underdog story. And the second candidate, well, that is 16-year-old Pragananda, who is actually trending on Twitter.
Really?
Everybody is totally in awe of his historic achievement. He even got a tweet from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Can you imagine that? And they're basically congratulating him for defeating world #1, Magnus Carlsen.
So the whole of India will be following him today. Very cool. Well, you also mentioned Erik Hansen, number 237 in the world. He's made a sensational performance so far in the tournament. And day 3 in the Airthings Master will be a day he will remember forever.
What has Anish played? Wow, he's just left his rook attacked. This is really clever. There's a lot of drama on the board. As we mentioned, White's knight was doomed. That transition actually happened. The knight grabbed the black rook, the white bishop fell. 2 seconds again by Erik. Oh, he made the move with 2 seconds left on his clock. Real brinksmanship by Hansen. Have we seen Erik Hansen resign? He's just given up. It's a difficult position, but a bit too early. Anish Giri, though, takes the win. Magnus has blundered. He's just forgotten about this threat. He's brought his rook across, attacking the black queen. But now knight takes pawn, I think, is just winning for black, or at least gives a big advantage. And look at that, Stockfish, the computer confirms it. This move, knight takes pawn, knight takes f4, gives black a +1 advantage.
Whoa.
Just wins a pawn. What's happening? Wow, what has just happened there? Magnus plays bishop takes pawn.
Whoa!
He's completely hallucinated. Magnus just lost a piece for free. And has he given up?
He has given up.
Wow.
He has resigned.
That you will never see that from a world champion. Magnus just took a pawn, but now black will play bishop takes bishop and black will be a piece up for free. Duda knows, I mean, you can see in his body language, he knows he's already struggling, and the more I look at it, the more I think he's going to have to take some drastic measures, maybe even some crazy sacrifices just to survive another few more moves. What Black's king is just completely helpless. No defenders around it.
Yeah.
What to do? Black's pieces are still asleep. Look at the black queen, look at the black rooks, unable to jump to the defense.
Oh, we have a result. Yep, Jan-Krzysztof Duda has resigned. Magnus Carlsen is actually shaking his head, but it is a win for the world champion, an important win for him, actually.
I think he played way too riskily, and I just needed to find a couple of good moves, which I did.
And Magnus Carlsen, he has climbed to second place in the tournament, but Jan Nepomniachtchi is in sole lead with incredible 27 points. He's earned $6,750 so far, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and he will definitely make it through to the knockout stage. If we look further down the table, Anish Giri, he is definitely not feeling safe. Erik Hansen, the big fan favorite, will be fighting hard today to qualify for the knockout stage. Andrei Esipenko, a young one that is inside top 8, so is Ding Liren. Nodirbek Abdusatorov is currently outside, and so is Levon Oronian. Wow, it's going to be a tense day. Sorry, and joining us today and throughout the whole day is Ty Prue Zimmerman, known by many as Chess by the Numbers on Twitter. We're so happy that you're going to be with us today, Ty, to just help us understand all the drama that will be going on.
I'm thrilled to be here.
And do you have your computer all set up and ready with all of your calculations?
I'll be crunching numbers all day long.
What do you predict? How tense and how tight is it?
At this point, all I can predict is chaos. There's going to be someone who comes into the day as a favorite and doesn't qualify. There's going to be someone who comes into the day as an underdog and does. Things are going to be changing with every result. So we're just going to keep an eye on it and see who gets through.
Yeah. You did post your qualifying odds on Twitter. We can take a look at it. I did notice Magnus Carlsen on 93%. He didn't feel sure at all when we talked to him yesterday. What will it take for Magnus to make it through?
He needs to win another game. If he wins one, he'll be through. 23 is almost guaranteed to get anyone through. 22, not so much. You're probably a favorite if you get to 22 points, but you're in no way safe. 21, probably not enough. So that's where the standings line up. So if Carlsen can win a game, he's in great shape.
And then Erik Hansen, the big fan favorite, who's made a sensational performance already. I see it's on 81% for him. Do you think he will make it through?
I think he will. He came in to this tournament, first of all, at 5% to qualify when I ran my initial projection. So let's just talk about how amazing it is that he's up there now. But he needs 4 points for that real certainty. 3 points could be enough. One win might get him through, but really a win plus an extra point or 3 somewhere else would be enough to lock it up. So he gets kind of a nice free roll in round 13 where the model doesn't worry that much about his chances if he loses because he's playing Jan. But if he manages to get points out of that game, he's suddenly in really good position to qualify.
All right. And then I also have to ask you about Levon Oronian, who is currently outside top 8. How many games will he have to win today?
He needs 2 wins.
Wow.
Which he could do, but he does have to play Magnus in his first try. So that's a huge, huge game for him. If he loses that one, he's got his back to the wall and basically has to win his last 2, which is a big ask even for a player as strong as him. Whereas if he beats Magnus, he comes out of that game as a pretty decent favorite to qualify with 2 more chances to get the other win.
Wow. All right, Ty, this is going to be such a tense day. Thank you so much for joining us now, and we look forward to talking to you again after the first game today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. All right. All these numbers, it's quite intense. And do you think the players are aware of their stats for going through?
We heard it yesterday in some of the interviews, especially Magnus saying he's not sure. Despite having 93% apparently their chances of qualifying, only 3 points separate second place and 10th place. So that's how close it is. Everything could change just in one game, one round.
Ooh, all right. It's getting close, you guys. And we're going to take a quick commercial break right now. But when we're back, we're going to start looking forward to round 13.
everyone, I'm Grandmaster David Howell. One of my favorite chess books in the world is The 7 Deadly Chess Sins by Jonathan Rowson. We are looking at the first sin, thinking. Now, thinking might not sound like a sin, but if you're thinking in positions that don't actually require thinking, or if you're overthinking, that might lead to blunders. But here Magnus tried to be a bit too clever. He actually sacrificed his queen for the rook. The reason for this blunder was that after queen takes rook, he had forgotten a simple check. If you want to find out more about the 7 deadly chess sins, go to chessboard.com/sins to enjoy the exclusive video course by Jonathan Rowson.
I love sports, so that's how I train. I do football. I've started playing paddle recently. I also do some exercises with a personal trainer, but he always tries to make it about competition because that is what motivates me. I do not know if it's essential to be in good shape to be a good player, but I know that I play a lot better when I do feel well and that I'm at my best physically, for sure.
Okay, so let's send a challenge.
Here is challenging. Nice graphics, easy to see. What are you thinking about? You're looking how it can be the most painful?
Exactly. Okay, fine.
That I give him up a phone. He wants to be even rude.
Welcome back, everyone. We are getting ready for the final day of preliminaries in the Airthings Masters with 8 players qualifying for knockout stage quarterfinals starting tomorrow. It's only 3 minutes left till the start of the day with round 13. Who do you think is feeling nerves today, David?
I think maybe, well, first of all, everyone. Yeah. But maybe those who are feeling most nervous are those around that 8th spot, that magical final qualification spot. They know that there are people chasing them from behind. They know that one loss and it could all go wrong for them. So definitely nerves are going to occur in every single game now.
And it must, for some of these young players and for an underdog like Chespra, Erik Hansen, for Pragnananda, even if his chances are not huge, the chances are there. For them, this must be, you know, a huge opportunity that they must be really feeling.
Yeah, I think the situation is different for two of the two players that you mentioned. For Erik Hansen, I think he'll be feeling the nerves, actually, because he knows one victory is going to probably take him there. And he will be facing Alexander Kostanik. And then we have Pragnananda, who has nothing to lose. Yeah. He's just enjoying his moment in the sun.
Pragnananda sitting in India quite late at night. So is Ding Liren in China. It's almost 1:00 a.m. for him. But Erik Hansen, early in the morning in Canada. Magnus Carlsen, he is sitting in Oslo. Have we seen the time affect them at all, David?
Possibly. I've noticed for Ding, he actually started really well. He was the early tournament leader, but over the last couple of days, his play has been affected, struggling towards the end of every day, partly because he's starting at 1 a.m., finishing every day at 5 a.m.
Yeah, he is one of the players who needs to fight today to qualify for the knockout stage. And here are the games coming up now in round 13. Young Pragnananda against another young one, Vincent Keimer, currently inside top 8, Vincent Keimer. Erik Hansen will play tournament leader Jan Nepomniachtchi in the first game. Ding Liren against Andrei Yesipenko. Jan-Krzysztof Duda, he is out of the tournament, but Abdusatorov, he is fighting to qualify. Mamdyarov also out, Anish Giri fighting to qualify. But we will follow the game between the great Levon Oronian and Magnus Carlsen. And Levon Oronian, he needs to fight today. Simon, what chances do you give Levon to qualify for the knockout?
Well, the first game is going to be critical because obviously he's playing Magnus. But on his side, at least Magnus is not on top form. So, and these guys have played so many times before. They know each other's games inside out. And Lev, you know, Lev has beaten Magnus loads of times as well. So this is a key game for Lev. You know, he's got to get a result on the board, I think, to have a good chance of qualifying.
Is he one of those players who does not get affected by the Magnus Carlsen effect? Because he played Magnus so many times.
I don't think so. I think he's played him. It's like playing, you know, one of his friends time and time again. So, yeah, he doesn't get nervous. I think he's just going to play. And, yeah, he's got the white pieces. Another advantage for him.
16 players getting ready. 8 of them will, unfortunately, leave us today, but 8 will go through to the knockout stage. And I do have Ty's predictions up in front of me, and he is saying that with a win here, Magnus has a 93% chance of qualifying. And here we go, the game has started.
The game has started. We can't quite see Magnus Carlsen yet, but we see his opening few moves. And it's the Sicilian defence, something that Magnus has been relying on ever since his World Championship match in 2018 against Fabiano Caruana. And here we go. Just a very quiet line, actually. White not going for the open Sicilian, instead bringing his bishop out early. White is the first to castle. Black there, just pushing a pawn. And now we do see the first trade of the game. Bishop takes knight. That is a check. And Black has doubled pawns. But Black does have the bishop pair and a pawn sacrifice early in the game. Levon Oronian giving up a pawn in the middle. What do you think, Simon?
Yeah, this is actually an idea that Van Foreest played recently. He played this pawn sacrifice, so it's a new idea. And I think he beat Prague with this e5 move. And you give the pawn up, but look at Black's pawns. They're just straggling there. They're so weak. And it's a nice positional way to play. I've always thought White should be doing OK here, so it'd be interesting to see what Magnus's idea on the black side of this is. Obviously been very aware of that game by Van Foreest.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Van Foreest there, he was helping Magnus in the World Championship match. So, yeah, these top players, sometimes they share ideas. Sometimes you see them employ the same idea with White and then with Black. And right now, Black is a pawn up, but as you mentioned, ugly, ugly pawns, especially those doubled pawns on the C-file. We came up with a rhyme, Simon, a couple of days ago. Doubled pawns are troubled pawns, and those black pawns, ugly for now.
And just looking at the database in front of me, I can see that Magnus has also played this particular position with the white pieces. And in an intriguing fact, Levon Oronian played this particular position with the white pieces against Magnus Carlsen in the Gold Money Asian Rapid.
Oh, wow.
So a sense of déjà vu for the players.
And Levon won.
Okay. Wow. So Levon, I mean, that's good strategy, right? If you've got good memories from a certain position, going for it again makes a lot of sense. And now Magnus there, just bringing his queen out, over-protecting his central pawns. It's going to be a struggle maybe for Black to get castled. If Black ever brings his knight out, then maybe his central pawns will be weak. Black still needs a few moves to prepare. Getting his king to safety. In the meantime, White, I guess, is going to build up. Just bring a rook to the centre, bring the white queen out, bring the white bishop out, and some real targets for the white pieces.
Yeah, I guess one player I've seen who really loves the bishop pair out of any world champion is Magnus Carlsen. I mean, I know you do as well, David, and probably you as well, Jovanka. I'm a bit more of a tricky knight kind of guy. I love, you know, throwing the knight about and trying to trick my opponent. But maybe he's gone for this system because Black has the 2 bishops. But, you know, if White can win a pawn back, Black is going to be in a lot of trouble. So, you know, then there'll be no material disadvantage. And you can see after this rook move, that pawn on e5 in the centre of the board is starting to be targeted. So, yeah, I just wonder what Magnus is going to do here. Having a bad score on this, he's got to have some kind of idea up his sleeve.
Yeah, you mentioned these pawns being targeted, Simon. Already, Black can't develop his knight. If he brings it out this way, the pawn in the centre falls, protected by White's rook. And if he brings it out the other way, then a similar trick can happen. At the very least, White can just take this knight. And now it is 2 knights versus 2 bishops, but once White regains this pawn in the centre, Black's just saddled with these ugly pawns. And these are going to be targets long term. The white queen might come out, attack this pawn. Looks very pleasant for White. So right now I'm expecting to see Magnus think for a while about how to get this guy into the game. Maybe the best option is to just push this pawn forward, over guard in the centre, and then develop the knight next. But this is a slow plan, and in the meantime, White simply is going to develop and hit some weaknesses. And he's going to gain his pawn back at some point, right?
Yeah, well, actually, looking at the database, the main move that Black plays is actually to pick up the first double pawn and push it 1 square and just give it up completely.
Okay, so this guy, doomed long term, is very, very weak. It's going to be targeted, so giving it up right now, at least forcing white to take some double pawns on. I've got to admit, this to me still looks very nice for white, but at least now black does have maybe some pawn pushes in the centre later in the game.
This reminds me of a game I had a long time ago. I know you mentioned the 7 Deadly Sins by Jonathan Rowson, and I had a very similar position to this where I tried to give the pawn back, and Jonathan with the white pieces beat me in 20 moves. So I'm getting some cold sweats here looking at this position. I'm not a big fan of the black structure, but that chessball course is such a great course. I mean, really should be in every chess player's arsenal, that 7 Deadly Sin book and course.
Yeah. Fully agreed. And actually, this pawn structure reminds me of a game I had against you in 2014 in the British Championships.
More cold sweats, is it?
Yeah. No, you beat me in that one, actually. But
that makes a change, shall I say. It makes a big change. Probably the only time I've beaten you, I think. So
maybe in classical chess. Okay. But I was about to say, in that game, strategically, I felt I had promising chances. But then black's play is going to be dynamic, right? Yeah. That's what you managed to achieve against me. You managed to make it into a mess, get the bishops active. And things got really complicated, and Magnus needs to try and do the same. He can't just sit and wait and allow white's pieces to come out and start going for his weak pawns.
Isn't it a bit surprising that he's actually thinking here? I know we said he has to think, but he's lost this position before. Why is he thinking here? I mean, he's either got an idea or he doesn't.
I think it's because he believes in the advantages of white's position, because, like I mentioned earlier, he actually played this variation with the white pieces himself. And it was played really recently in the World Blitz Championship in Warsaw against Boris Gelfand.
But why would he be thinking as black if he believes in the pluses behind white's position?
Why would he be playing this as black?
Why would he go for this? I don't know, especially because he's gone for this game and lost this variation before against Levon in the Gold Money Asian. I don't quite know, but here comes his answer.
OK, so we talked about the bishop pair. That bishop pair has gone. Black brought his bishop out, traded it off for a knight. So material is level. It's the same kind of complement of pieces right now. But black has at least got rid of one potential attacker of his pawns. And there we go, Magnus centralising his rook. This looks strange to me, to be honest. It didn't look like the #1 priority to bring that rook to the centre. Black's king still in the middle of the board.
Yeah, I mean, it still takes black 2 moves to castle. And as we mentioned, if white can just win 1 pawn back, I mean, even something simple like moving the bishop into the middle, targeting a pawn, or moving a knight into the middle, I'd much rather be white here. White's moves are so natural to play. And there's one thing about having an advantage, according to the computer in chess, but there's another thing about having an easier position to play, where you can just play normal moves. You don't have to think too much. And it seems like white has that advantage at the moment of playing easy moves here.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've seen from Levon, especially it kind of started halfway through last season's tour, but he loves to play instantly, and he loves these positions where the plan is simple, it's very straightforward, he can build momentum, put pressure on his opponent on the clock, and I'm expecting him to do that. As you mentioned, very many tempting moves here for white, very natural tempting moves. It's hard to pick between them. Maybe that's the only problem. There are so many...
Too many good moves.
Good moves, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the type of position in a long game. I would sit there for 30 minutes deciding between 2 moves that are probably just the same, just because they both look so good. And I'm expecting white's bishop or knight to move right now.
It's been a little bit up and down for Levon in this tournament. The only player to beat Jan Nepomniachtchi, but and he's also won a game against Ding Liren, but also lost to Artemiev and some other players. But he is a man on form, right, Jovanka, judging by the Grand Prix?
Yeah, I mean, he played an excellent tournament in the Berlin Grand Prix. And also, I have to say, he's been in this type of position countless times on the 2021 season. And I can remember in Skilling Open, it seemed like he needed a miracle. Miracle performed. Yeah. So, I mean, somehow I feel that this experience will just basically favour him. Yep. And he was used to the pressure. And he said it himself, he loves proving people wrong. And you two both expected Levon to develop the bishop or the knight, which looked very, very natural to me. But Levon has gone for a different approach, just solidifying that pawn, the double pawns there on c5.
Yeah, and just to show maybe why Levon Oronian has done this, We mentioned in this position, White's bishop could come out and attack a pawn. White's knight could also attack this weak guy, which is pretty much indefensible. For example, bring the knight to the side of the board or centralizing it to target this pawn. But then this idea would happen. Black would push it forward and White would be forced to take. And now White does have these doubled pawns, and it's not clear whose pawn majority is better. Black has a 5 versus 3 advantage on the right half. White has a 4 versus 2 on the left half of the board. And that's why Levon Oronian pushed this pawn forward. I think the reason both Simon and myself were reluctant to do this is because it does feel a bit weak on this diagonal. But if Black pushes the pawn, White could just recapture with his own pawn, and he does defend this knight with his queen. So Black's bishop cannot really take it. That is why Magnus just developed his knight, and now Levon Oronian has gone for this black pawn that we mentioned from a different angle. So he's using his bishop, but he hasn't put it on a square where it blocks his rook. Very interesting play here. And this guy is going to be lost at some point now. Does Magnus push it forward and force White to double his pawns by taking one of these two ways? Or does Black go on the defensive and maybe just bring his knight back? But this feels slow, and White's knight will continue the attack of this pawn. And
one thing I've noticed like very strong players tend to do is avoid moves like this, knight d7, which is a very passive defensive move, trying to hold on to your gains because, OK, knight d7 does defend the pawns, but you have to sit there and defend. And this looks like a much more active and better try, just throwing the knight into the middle of the board. Oronian obviously responds immediately, and he's going to get his pawn back, but at least Magnus is now trying to get a little bit of activity here. There might be some ideas of unleashing his bishop, and maybe the knight can either come over to target some of White's pawns here. So I kind of like the way Magnus has played the last sort of couple of moves here.
Yeah.
We should issue a word of warning here because it is possible for Black to get super greedy and try to grab the White rook in the corner and by playing this pawn move. But that would be a bad mistake because you give up all your dark squares.
The computer does not like this move by Magnus.
Yeah, so just to explain Ivanka's point, this would give up the dark squares and would not be favourable for Magnus at all. And if we catch up with the game, his last move not approved by the computers in this position. He's brought his knight to the side. He is attacking this pawn. But Ivanka, what might the reasoning be behind this one? I don't immediately see why it's a blunder. He's attacking this pawn. If Black captures the black knight, getting rid of the attacker, then at least Black, after the trade, has undoubled a set of pawns. This pawn much less weak than it previously was. Maybe the reasoning is because White can just defend this pawn. But how do you do that? You've got to be careful now. If you lift your rook up to defend this pawn, there will be this trick that we highlighted earlier, the pawn pushing forward, attacking this rook in the corner from long range. Maybe White can just step back with the queen, for example, and defend the pawn this way. It's very shaky for Black. This pawn is loose, and this pawn is the only defender of the black knight. If one of them falls, Black's position might crumble. Yeah, right now, though, it's still very complicated. Let's ignore the computer, maybe for now, but it does look very promising for White if Levon is accurate.
I see Philip on the hashtag #ChessChamps on Twitter saying that Magnus looks quite pale, and he did confirm to us yesterday that he has been down with COVID and he has been feeling sick and even hallucinating moves. What is that all about, David?
Yeah, he's been missing things. Very uncharacteristic for him. He mentioned yesterday in the interview, as soon as he starts to calculate, that's when the blunders actually happen. So he will be maybe relying on his instincts more than ever today. I mean, he has fantastic instincts. He can kind of play by hand. But yeah, when he starts working out these long, complicated variations, that's when the mistakes have been happening. I'm wondering, I think maybe he just looks pale because of the lighting in his room. Maybe he's got a window open.
Big yawn there, big yawn. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it takes you out of it, COVID. He did play very bad yesterday, didn't he, at times? So he's obviously not his 100% normal self.
And you also, you told me, Simon, that you've been down with COVID. How did it affect you when it came to chess, if you played a little bit of chess over Christmas? Yeah,
I mean, I had it over Christmas. I mean, I was pretty much fine, but I was extremely tired and I couldn't play any chess. I normally play a lot of blitz chess, but I was dropping pieces everywhere and just could not think. And they call it the brain fog. And it was more like the brain just did not function at all for me. It was more than a fog. So, yeah, it's strange how something like that can just slow you down so much. And obviously, Magnus has a bit of that now. So I'm sure he'll be back to health soon. No, he's a healthy chap, probably a bit healthier than me, you know. So.
Well, you've been to the gym today, Simon.
I did, yeah.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I need some inspiration from you.
And the queen has retreated to defend the attacked pawn. And Magnus playing very quickly, actually, just pushing that pawn forward. And Levon, tempo. I mean, what was that?
Wow.
I'm just saying he's not letting him think, is he? He's just like bang straight away.
Yeah.
What do you make of that move, David? As well, that's it's getting crazy already.
Exactly. It's not just that it's a crazy move, but to play it that quickly. I mean, Levon Oronian, he's the one trusting his instincts now, and it looks like a pure pawn sacrifice by White. But some traps are in the position right now, and we have to show some of the ideas here. After Black's pawn pushed forward, unleashing this bishop and hitting the White rook in the corner, Levon said, OK, I'm not letting you have that rook. I'm going to push my pawn forward in the centre. And this pawn is attacked 3 times. This is the type of invisible move I wouldn't even consider. But if Black had taken with his own pawn, you lose the Black knight. If Black takes with the rook or with the bishop, then the White pawn steps forward with a double attack, winning a piece. That is really, really sneaky by Levon Oronian. And Magnus replying very quickly as well. Just ignoring this pawn. I think it was poisoned, but he instead fortifies this Black knight with his own pawn. Wild position.
I've already got brain fog here. I mean, I've just got brain fog at the moment because it's all happening. I mean, A5, a move on the side of the board when there's so much going on in the centre, and there's so many options available here. I mean, White can give up the exchange. White can push the knight away. It's very complex. I mean, do you think, and this looks like a very sensible move, do you think Lev, his game plan against Magnus is try to make it a bit complicated, knowing that Magnus is under the weather?
Yeah, I think you might be right, and knowing he needs a win as well. And talking of making things complicated, we continue to see surprising moves. Here, the Black Knight is attacking the White Rook. Levon didn't even blink. He did not consider anything else. He has sacrificed his rook. He took a pawn, and now after Knight takes rook, I'm expecting him to recapture. And if we do a quick material count here, White is down a rook for a knight. And this knight is temporarily offside, but White does have a lot of threats. Actually, maybe there are options. This bishop might well just skewer the Black Queen, hit the Black Rook behind it. These Black pawns are incredibly weak. This guy is going to drop off. This one is isolated. This one is isolated. In the current position, I was about to... Well, I did say that rook takes knight was pretty much automatic, but there is also the option of the bishop landing on this square, hitting the Black Queen immediately. So Levon Oronian not automatically recapturing, which most, including myself, maybe would have done. He is thinking of more ambitious moves.
So he's a rook down, but is it basically just that the Magnus's pieces are so bad?
Yep, and he will win something back. He can grab the knight back for now. That's some compensation, but no, he goes for the Black Queen instead. And the Black Queen has to move either now or on the next turn. You could actually give up this knight. This knight is going to fall off anyway. You could flick in a check just to ruin White's pawn structure around the White King. But I'm not sure whether you even want to do that. But if you move the Queen, for example, just choosing a random square, then now White has a choice. Do you take the knight? Do you take the rook? Everything's on the menu.
Wow.
So complicated. Already very complicated.
It's going to be an epic battle. And I think it's going to be an absolutely incredible day of action. And we want you at home to be very much part of all this. And so we would love it if you tweeted us using the hashtag #ChessChamps. Or alternatively, you can send us your selfies, remember, in landscape mode, and we will feature them on the show. Remember,
I've got a bone to pick with this. So I was watching the show yesterday, and I was like, I'm going to get my selfie in. Surely.
You did.
Maybe I wasn't watching it at that moment. I was watching the whole show. I went to the toilet at that moment, so of course. I didn't realise. So I was trying to get my selfie on the show, but you got it on, did you?
Yes. I remember it. Yeah. You had David in the picture there.
Oh, my God, David.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
We even gave you a shout out, Simon. You missed it.
I missed it. Bad time to have a toilet break. And also, I've noticed that you've made a couple of changes with the layout today and the evaluation bar. Did you make it orange just for my beard?
Yeah.
Was that just for me?
That's of course it was for you.
Just for me.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Right.
You know, the whole thing just looks better now, right?
Yeah.
We have Simon with the orange bear.
Blends
we
in.
have the orange bar. You know, just everything's just coming together.
We have the orange squares highlighting the last move on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all for you, Simon.
Yeah.
It's all for you.
I feel privileged now. I'll let you off then about the selfie.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that's okay.
Yeah. Come home, Simon. This is where you belong.
I feel it's so nice to be back after.
It's so nice to have you back.
It really is. After the World Championships and, you know, with the games are slower pace, but sitting here, it's lovely to be back. It really is.
And a whole day of talking about chess and this exciting format as well. Yeah.
It's going to be good.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
definitely.
Talking of a lot of fun, this position, I think we're having fun analysing it, looking at it, but the players, they must be super stressed right now. And Magnus just trying to find a safe square for the Black Queen, and it's not easy. No matter where the Black Queen goes, there will be pluses and minuses to the square it lands on. And Magnus burning time on the clock. Both players now down to 8 minutes. It's so complicated, it's so messy, and there will, in the end, be an imbalance, whether that's on material pieces or whether that's simply the pawn structure. If Black can't emerge from this position with extra material, then I think he's just going to lose the game. Black's pawns are too weak. So Magnus needs to be really, really careful here. The computer, the ginger bar says
0.0. I mean, come on. But I'm sure both the players don't think that at the moment. They're just trying to find the best moves. I mean,
exactly.
I suppose, continuing a line that you could consider here, you've got to move the queen. So, we talked about our game when I at least with a bad pawn structure, try to complicate the position. And I always try to move as near to my opponent's king as I can. And I could dive into this one next to the black pawn. And if you take the rook, at least do some damage to your king. And I think it was you, David, who mentioned this check. You've also got the capture of the pawn in front of the white king. So just try and complicate the position while I get a chance and make a little bit of chaos, because the pawn structure's bad. I want to create some weaknesses around the white king side as well. And at least this idea does that.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of ideas here for both sides, and it's not clear whose king is weaker, actually, in a position like this. And you also mentioned this check, which looks maybe even stronger.
Oh, it's a nasty move here, though. I just realised you can go pawn takes, and I don't want to take that one back.
Whoops. Suddenly a checkmate. And we're talking about the kings. Black's king gets trapped first. So, Magnus working out all of these types of variations. OK, he doesn't choose the move that you mentioned. I like that one, despite the fact it was still very messy. I like bringing the queen not just near the white king, but also to protect the pawn in the centre. Magnus instead choosing a safe square, but it will get hit. At some point, white's knight is going to gain time against this black queen. So a bit of a mysterious one there by Magnus Carlsen. And what's his idea if white does take this rook? I mean, white actually can just take the knight. That looks pretty good too. Very, very tempting. But if you take the rook, what does black have in store here? If you just recapture this bishop back, then in this position, it's actually level material, but these black pawns are just going to be picked off one by one, and white is going to win.
Yeah.
So Magnus needs something special, something magical, and the evaluation bar now has gone in white's favour, because maybe there isn't anything now for black.
So I was just going to ask, take the rook or take the knight? What's your instinct?
I mean, I like trying to keep the initiative, and I would probably, obviously the players do neither of these. They just go, Lev moving his knight in to attack the queen.
But this one I didn't like so much, because it's maybe possible to kind of now flick in this check.
Yeah, why not?
And pawn takes knight could maybe be met by queen takes pawn or
It looks very dangerous, that idea, Ivanka, because the one idea I think Magnus had about putting his queen on a light square is that the black queen points towards that little guy over around black's king, and I think he's going for this now. So this is this turning around in Magnus's favour?
Possibly, yeah. And look at the computer evaluation there. It did say that this last move by black, bringing the knight to this square, was actually the only way to maintain the balance, but it also does give black the advantage. And now, if we see the computer suggestions after this knight check, no matter what white does, black has an advantage. I mean, the most obvious move is also the best move here, according to Stockfish, according to the computer. That's taking this knight. That will happen, I'm pretty sure. And now black, most likely, is going to jump in with his queen and capture a pawn. I mean, even that is not forced. I mean, there are options here. You could even just take this pawn with your own pawn and hit the white queen. For example, if the white queen recaptures, you can actually save both your queen and the rook at the same time by lifting your queen up and offering a trade. So suddenly Levon Oronian lost control, maybe just trying to be a bit too clever by bringing his knight in earlier when he could have just taken the black rook or taken the black knight, both seemingly with an advantage. Yeah,
it's probably that position you said earlier where you have too many good moves. You have a choice of two good moves, taking the knight, taking the rook, and you play the third move, and you get a bit confused. I remember one thing that Britain's first ever Grandmaster, Tony Miles, said, and I didn't hear this myself, but it was quite famous that Tony Miles, his sort of catchphrase was, always play the simple moves. There's nothing wrong with the simple moves. So if there's a good, simple option, why overcomplicate it? If you can get an advantage by playing something very easy, then play that move. You don't need to go into complications. So that might have been something which Lev could certainly regret here, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he will definitely regret not taking this rook. Meanwhile, after the knight jump, after the knight check, it has been captured, and as I mentioned, this is also an option. Pawn takes pawn, hitting the white queen. And Levon Oronian is the master of counterattack, but here Magnus is doing that. He's just leaving his own queen, but now the white queen is the one under fire. This is a crazy, crazy position. And it all comes down to that sin that I mentioned actually earlier in that advert. Thinking Levon overthought the position, and now he's lost control. The queen's about to disappear as well. Black's queen has been captured by the white knight, and Magnus will take the white queen off.
And according to Thai stats, with a win for Magnus, he's going to be qualified for the knockouts 100%, and Levon will be down to 20% chance to qualify. He really has to avoid a loss here. A draw will have Levon on 35% chance to qualify. A win will have him at 73% chance to qualify. Is this a game right now where anything can happen? Any result still possible?
Yeah, definitely. There's still sufficient materials. I mean, there's plenty of pawns on the board as well, so anything could happen. But I did notice Levon Oronian slightly shake his head a few moments ago. He knows he's lost control of this one, and it does feel like if Magnus is accurate, he can break out now. Also, look at that black pawn. It's one square away from promotion. It is covered by the white rook at the moment, but there will be tricks concerning that pawn, and it will take white a few moves to go and round it up to pick it off. And Levon Oronian, look at it. He's gesturing. He's not happy at all. OK, poker face back, but for sure, Magnus will be happy. And here he has choice. He can capture the white knight. That makes sense. But it is also tempting to capture the white bishop instead. Black's king. What do we think, guys? Which piece is it going to take?
I mean, in this position, I quite like the black bishop if you just take the bishop. So, because then we might be able to free our dark squared bishop by playing some pawn break later on and get that into the game. And also, you don't want to lose black's pawn on the side of the board on a5. So I'd probably just go king takes bishop with the idea of some pawn break.
Yeah.
And I think Jovanka, like black's also, well, black's a pawn up at the moment. Yeah. So it is certainly turned around in Magnus' favour. And this is what you see in chess, isn't it? It's such a hard game. You can play very nicely, some lovely ideas, one little mistake, and you lose the game, especially at this level. It's such high class.
That's what makes chess exciting, though. But I agree with you there, Simon. I think I would just take the bishop and then do a pawn break. And I'm primarily thinking of the c-pawn. Move it up one square, because if that bishop gets released, then goodness knows, it's going to wreak terrible, terrible danger. But, you know, chess is chess. And I love that about chess, that one move decides the outcome.
I don't think there's any other sport or game that really compare, because you can think about golf, you make a bad shot, you can get back into it. I can't think of anything else where one bad move can just ruin your whole tournament. Yeah. One little moment out of, like, let's say 3 days, 4 days of playing chess. So it's really quite unique in the stress levels. I'd be interested to hear if anyone at home can think of anything that compares to that. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't myself.
You can never really rest in chess. No. Basically, you have to be 100% focused all the time.
Right, and, well, it keeps us all excited. And talking about excited people, well, we do have some selfies, and Nordia Asman says it's 1 a.m. in Malaysia, and it's a great palindrome, 22/02/2022. She's got a birthday, and capping the day off, she's rooting for Kastaniuk to score for the ladies. And I have to admit, I am too.
That would be very nice.
And also we have Tom Jays, who is watching Levon against Magnus, and says it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And that palindrome, so 2002-2022, it's the same backwards, forwards, and upside down even, I heard.
Yeah, my nephew actually, it was a bit worrying because when he was born, he was his due date was the 6th of the 6th of the 6th.
Oh, no.
And he missed it by 2 days.
Oh, lucky.
We called him Damien anyway. But no, we didn't. We didn't call him Damien, but he was due to be born on the 6th of the 6th of the 6th. Like, no. So, it's a very strange date, isn't it? So,
a chess player loves those coincidences and, you know.
I think Magnus even tweeted about it himself, about the date, So chess players, they love those patterns. And meanwhile, we do have an answer to the age-old question. knights or bishops. Every world champion seems to favour a different one, but Magnus did take off the bishop, the white bishop, instead of the white knight. So you guys were right. And now it is bishop versus knight. That means Magnus will try and open up the position, open up diagonals for his minor piece. The white knight has to retreat here, has to run away. But
does that tell us something about his style, that he does prefer the bishops?
Definitely. And often he prefers positions where he has the bishops as a pair, but in this type of position, which will quite likely explode thanks to pawn breaks, like Jovanka mentioned, pushing pawns forward, maybe trying to get rid of white's stronghold, that strong white pawn in the centre. And once that does happen, the black bishop is likely to be superior to its counterpart. So this, maybe it's about the specifics of this position, but in general, I think Magnus prefers his bishops. If we rewind, his predecessor Anand preferred knights.
Can I just say, David, so we've seen some moves there. I was wondering after this knight c5, Magnus played the very obvious e5. There's also moving the bishop, trying to get it to support the pawn, bishop h6, which was a move. But OK, the way he's played it seems very good as well, doesn't it? Just opening up the bishop there in the middle of the board.
Yeah, so just to show your idea, Simon, so the white knight did retreat to a nice outpost and Magnus did try and explode open the centre. This was the first move that came to my mind, but a sneaky one would have been to bring the bishop to the side and try to bring it in to support the promotion of the white pawn. This would pretty much force, I guess, the white rook to come across. Black's bishop could now dive in and capture a pawn. Black is still a pawn up, but maybe Magnus just thought he wanted to be more direct here. I'm trying to find a move for white right now. Maybe the rook could come across, hit this bishop, and if bishop takes pawn, maybe the white knight could start dancing with a check, with a fork. Personally, I think this is very good for black as well, and maybe Magnus missing a trick there. But the move he played, pushing this pawn forward, also very logical. And after this trade, maybe he'll go for the same idea, but he could also think about activating his rook. Maybe this is Magnus's plan, to try and bring his rook into the game now.
All right. Well, it's a dramatic day, you guys. 8 players will leave us after today, and look at the bars in the bottom of the screen in the other games that just left us. But I did notice one game. Erik Hansen, the bar all the way over to his side in his game against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Moves are coming out thick and fast here.
Yeah, very quick moves in such a complicated endgame. So pieces have disappeared, but black is still 1 pawn up. And I'm just surprised that Magnus has moved that quickly. I thought there were plenty of other tempting options at his disposal, but he's running with the king now. And this does allow, for example, the white rook to come up with a check, but that would run into black's king walking even further down the board, hitting a couple of pieces. Black's king is going to act as a very, very strong piece in this endgame. It's easier to get the black king to the centre. It's actually very easy for black to centralise his rook as well. And being a pawn up in an endgame like this one should give a decisive advantage, especially if the rooks come off. With pawns on both sides of the board, bishops are better than knights. So Levon Oronian needs to maybe keep the rooks on and be a bit tricky with his knight. As Simon mentioned earlier, knights are tricky, so Magnus can't relax yet. And black's bishop there was under fire, so it does retreat.
All right, well, as mentioned, it's looking really, really good for Erik Hansen, number 237 in the world with a win in this game. Wow, he's going to be super close to qualification, if not even 100% sure. That is, wow. We will keep an eye on that game. Liam Le looking good for him against Kostenyuk. Artemiev, the bar over to his side in his game against Niemann. And what else? Anish Giri, the bar also over to his side against Mamdyarov. Giri is also not by any means safe to qualify, so a win would be great news for him.
Yeah, action everywhere.
Yeah.
And I did just take a quick peek over at the other game, Hansen against Nepomniachtchi, and it's not just that he has an advantage, but it's also a long-term advantage. So unless there's a big blunder, he should be winning that game against the tournament leader. And what a result that would be.
Yeah, I think our stat guy said that, you know, they kind of wrote this game off. So any result that, you know, Erik was able to get from that game is a massive bonus on his way to qualifying. So that's really good news for all the chess bra fans out there. Yeah.
There's a bunch of them, the chess bra fans. Wow. And it's going to be interesting to see if he qualifies, who he will face also in the quarterfinals starting tomorrow. All right, what's happening?
OK, so white's knight trying to get a bit tricky. There's simply nothing else to do. You have to try and get some of those black pawns with your knight, but Magnus did fend off an attack from the knight by just stepping a pawn forward, and white's knight has had to retreat, and that last retreat, it's a sad move to play. That is almost an admission of defeat. White's knight now not on a great circuit, can't jump forward anywhere effective, and black's rook has entered the action. So white's king now stepping forward. That shows that Levon really doesn't have any active plans. And now it's just down to Magnus to activate the black king, maybe, start pushing some pawns forward, and it should be a matter of time. Magnus in top form, I think, would win this I think he'd win this 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But Levon Oronian, maybe just knowing that his opponent's still suffering the effects of COVID, maybe still some practical chances. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't think so, because I'm looking at white's rook to see whether that can be a nuisance, and it's dominated by the dark squared bishop. And as long as the black rook has control over the 8th rank, there's just no way that the white rook is going to get involved into the game unless Magnus takes the decision to allow it.
Yeah, maybe white's only chance here is to move the rook down to try and attack the pawn on the f-file. We're talking about people playing, you know, I was going to say under the influence, probably not the right term, under the COVID influence. And I remember actually it was quite interesting that England #1 for many, many years, Mickey Adams, actually said that he played better when he had a cold or a flu. Because because he played more natural. It's like I know some people say they play better on a hangover because they don't think. They just play. They play without thinking, and they let their kind of subconscious take over their moves, which is an interesting way of looking at it. But I think it's certainly different with COVID. It has different effects to, like, you know, your traditional cold. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually found the same when I was younger. At least I always played better when I had a cold, when I was I'm maybe about to be ill, just because there's nothing else you can do. You have to sit at the board. You have to focus. You don't have the energy to get up and walk around and be distracted. But the older I get, the more I feel the effects of these things. So, I think I would be struggling too if I were in Magnus's shoes. Not feeling 100% physically fit.
Yeah, at least he's got an easy position to play. This is just the kind of thing he'd want. He doesn't really have to think here. I mean, you only have to think a couple of moves ahead in positions like this, and just know where to move your pieces and pawns. And he's doing well. He knows what he's doing here, doesn't he? He's going to win this, I think.
It does feel that way, and yeah, normally the disasters that do happen to Magnus, they come when the queens are on the board, when there's complications, when there's stuff to calculate. Here, as you mentioned, Simon, not much to calculate. I think the only thing you need to see here as black is that if white's rook does come up to the 6th rank, which it does, targeting a lot of pawns, that black can now challenge that rook with his own rook and offer the trade. And as we mentioned, any rook exchanges, black is just going to win. Black's bishop will be more flexible than the knight with pawns on both sides, and black's king is ready to make a dart towards white's pawns on this side of the board. So no rook trade possible for white, and Magnus just doing Magnus things, advancing slowly with pawns on the side he's stronger. Black has a 3 versus 2 advantage on this right side, so why not play that?
Yeah, and one idea that I saw for Magnus, but way ahead in the future, is actually just to push Annie, the A-pawn, 1 square forward, and, you know, try to clear the path for the C-pawn, just to...
I thought it was Alice.
Alice.
I thought it was Harry. Come on, get it right. It's Harry's brother, Harry. What are you doing? You're butchering the pawns here. God, blimey.
What Arne? Tour director Arne, the A-pawn.
There's been big controversy in Norway about that name.
Yeah. There has. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's been even a whole Arne day, because there's apparently, in Norway, more top leaders by the name of Arne than there are female top leaders, which is not good.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But here we're 50-50. 2 girls, 2 men.
Exactly.
Usually you're outnumbered, David.
Yeah, Simon.
I'm doing it for you, Dave.
I'm forming a team now.
Yeah.
But on that note, Gary, the G-pawn, has just pushed forward, offering a trade. But white now, here, Simon, would you trade off a set of pawns here, or would you keep Harry on the board?
I think
you're each pawn.
I think you've got to complicate it here. The more you play into your opponent's hands, the more you make it. I mean, normally when you're trying to draw a position, you want to make exchanges because with the pawns, you want to get rid of the pawns. But what I was thinking there, you push Harry on 1 square on to at least give him the chance of getting black's Harry pawn. A lot of Harrys going on at the moment. This check, I'm not really sure what it achieves. And I think it's also quite notable that one thing I was taught when I was younger, that when you're playing with a bishop against the knight, especially in an ending, a strategy you should try to use, which Magnus has done with his G-pawn, the Gary pawn, is to try and restrict your opponent's knight with your pawns. So you slowly move your pawns forwards to restrict your opponent's knight, and then you try to push that knight backwards and make your opponent's knight worse and worse. And I think that's the general thing that obviously Black is trying to achieve here. I don't really get this check, to be honest. So I'm not sure what's happening here. How does that actually help Lev? Is he going to go after Harry now, maybe?
Possibly. That must be the only idea.
He can go after Harry, because if he does, then you kind of mentioned the white knight being restrained. Doesn't have too many squares. So you can just simply attack it with a pawn, and poor old knight going to go to the corner.
It's not pretty over there. I mean, I guess you have to do this, though, yeah? So, I mean...
This is going to happen, I think.
Okay.
So White's idea is to attack this pawn and this pawn at the same time, but now Black can defend them both with a simple pawn move, pushing this pawn forward, guarding its fellow here, but also protecting with his rook. And this has actually happened in the position, and now White's rook coming across to attack. Is it Freddy? Freddy, the f-pawn.
Yep.
And
that's the one.
yeah, right now,
Dave.
Black's rook is a bit overstretched. It does want to defend this pawn in the corner, but now it struggles to defend this pawn as well. For example, if it steps up one square, which it does, Levon Oronian, he's doing a chase. So first he gives a check, and no matter where the Black king goes, I think he's going to try and bring his rook to start chasing these Black pawns. White's knight is terribly placed for now. But
at least he's complicating it, and the white knight now coming back into the game. This is actually has a very nice route.
Yeah, it's a very sneaky move, because the whole idea actually is that now the white rook can attack the pawn, and it's controlling a few critical squares from the bishop.
I'm not convinced actually that Magnus is maybe this check, which I thought was bad, was a very clever idea by Lev. I mean, this knight, it might just win that f pawn now. How do you stop this idea? Yeah,
the knight is destined to jump forward, right? At some point you have to, and this pawn is doomed. Maybe it's going to become a race. OK, he first pushes his h-pawn forward. There will be a race in the position. I was going to say, if the Black rook comes down, White's rook takes this pawn, defending an important pawn here, but after rook takes pawn, I don't know who's going to be quicker. It feels like maybe this Black pawn is going to win the game after Black picks off this guy here. So that is why Levon Oronian pushed Harry forward. We're going to see a race maybe between Harry and Alice, or Harry over on the side.
And also the time situation is getting very low, and I think somehow Oronian has kind of given himself some chances, and this is a great practical way of playing that if you play normal moves, you're going to get in trouble. So he's found a way to complicate the position, and I think, as we said, like Tony Miles, keep things simple if you've got an easy way, but if you've got a bad position, you should nearly always try to complicate, which at least Lev has achieved here in the position.
Yep, and suddenly it's not clear what Black can do. Black wants to bring his rook down and attack some pawns, but at the moment, White's knight is doing a great job of covering any entry squares. So right now, Black is a bit stuck, and White has a clear plan, either of picking off this guy or picking off the f-pawn instead. And, yep, it's going to be a pawn race no matter what. And despite the computer saying 0.0 again, that's so frustrating. I think this one could go either way. A decisive result is still very likely in this one.
And Erik Hansen, he has won the game against tournament leader Jan Nepomniachtchi, bringing him to 22 points in third place currently, Erik Hansen. I mean, I can't calculate that fast, but he must be very close to qualified for the knockout stage. Incredible by the Canadian. That is so much fun. For chess fans.
I think Ty said 23 is the magic number where you nearly guarantee your qualification for the knockout. So he might just be 1 point away. One draw in his final 2 games would guarantee it. But even if he loses his last 2 games, still decent chances.
Yeah, incredible.
And, well, Magnus was feeling uncomfortable with the situation, and that's why he's clarified matters. So he's going to say, no race. Instead, I'm giving back the pawn, and I'm just going to try to outplay White using the fact that my bishop is better than the white knight.
Actually, I think this is Magnus just trying to escape the game with a draw.
OK.
Because the pawns have just disappeared. There aren't sufficient pawns left. And look at Magnus reacting there. He did eliminate Harry, Simon. You must be annoyed about that. He went for a pawn trade, but he gave up a pawn. Well, he gave a pawn back in the process. And now if the rooks do disappear, it does feel like Black's going to take too long with the Black king to go after those white pawns. It feels like everything's just going to get eliminated. White's knight can even give itself up for some pawns later on, and it should just be a draw now.
this is one case where the more pawns that get exchanged, the nearer to a draw you do get. I know Lev avoided this earlier, but in general, you just want to get the pawns off the board because you need a pawn in the ending to queen, and that knight has some very nice squares. I mean, it should be a draw. Magnus has indicated from his body language as well that it's going that way. I mean, I'm not even sure what he missed, to be honest. I don't think it was a major blunder. I think Lev played fantastically well with that move. I did not expect to complicate and give himself some chances. So well played, Lev.
Yeah, it was all about those rook manoeuvres earlier. They looked really intricate. It wasn't clear the idea behind them, but there was always a plan behind Levon's moves. And now, very nice putting a pawn on a light square. White's king is getting ready to step up the board. And meanwhile, it's going to take black still a long time to get those white pawns on the left side.
Yeah, I do feel that this game is going to edge towards a draw, but I do think that white has to be incredibly accurate. So, for instance, now, I mean, I'm not quite sure I understand why Lev has allowed Magnus to enter.
But you can't enter with your king. That's the problem. Wherever you go with the black king, there'll be a knight check. There'll be a knight fork. Knights are so tricky, and
just a fortress, is he going for, right?
It's pretty much a fortress. Black's pawns, they're all isolated as well. They're spread out, and they are easy targets for the white knight. I don't think Black's in time to protect all his pawns and get in with the black king. Even if you win one pawn in the process, it probably shouldn't be enough. White's king is running over to this side now. And, OK, there we go. The march continues again. No matter where you bring the black king, if you go this way, there's a check in the centre. If you go the other way, there's a check with the white knight.
Winning a bishop this time around, I guess, as well. So, and yeah, OK. I mean, Lev's an amazing endgame player as well. I mean, I know we talk about how strong Magnus is. I mean, I guess everyone agree here that Magnus is the strongest of all time in the ending. There's no one who can get near him in the ending. But looking at some of Lev's games as well, Lev must be one of the best endgame players ever. He's got so much experience, and that's something that age helps you with. He's probably going to lose now after I say that. But let's see. More pawns getting exchanged. This is only helping the defender.
Yeah, and now if Black's king goes and takes the white pawn next to it, then White's knight will actually go to the edge of the board with a check, and that's a double attack. It will go back and capture Black's pawn on the c6 square. So yeah, everything, we're about to see that happen. Everything getting traded. This one is just a dead draw now.
All right.
Yeah.
Then,
not enough material left to checkmate.
Hopefully we're going to make it to the ending of Ding against Jesipenko. Yeah, it is a draw in this one. That is good news for Magnus Carlsen. Levon Oronian, he was hoping definitely for a win, but still, chances to qualify for Levon. He will have to win a game today, but we're going to jump into this one. Ding Liren and Andrei Jesipenko, they are both fighting to qualify for the knockout, and the bar has just gone over to the Russian side.
Wow, this is a crazy position. I was just about to say, doing a count, it was level material, but White has just gone a pawn up. But it is all about the White king. Look at the White king out in the open right now. Yes, it's defended by a knight, and a knight is a king's best friend, but there's so much pressure on that White knight. There's a pin now on the third rank from Black's rook. Black's queen is threatening some deadly checks from behind. White's king, is it going to find safety? It needs to somehow sneak back, hiding behind its own pawns, but it's not easy to do that. Even if Black's not winning immediately, this is such a hard position to handle with only 1 minute on the clock with White. Ding in serious trouble here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the White king. I mean, well, it is the king. It's part of the problem, but it's this pin. The pin on the White knight is so horrible. It gives Black sort of chances of even moving the bishop with a check, which might be a killer move in some situations. So I'm not sure how Ding is going to get out of this. I've been so impressed with the younger players in this tournament. I mean, including this chap here, Esipenko. He's going from strength to strength, and I think a lot of the Russian players have quite hyped him up. You know, you can tell they're quite close, a lot of Russian players, and they've mentioned how talented they feel Esipenko is. Future world champion, maybe. There's a fair few of them, isn't there? Maybe. You know, but potentially.
Well, even Magnus holds him in high regard, and you can see that during their game. You know, it was a masterpiece of dominance. Just looking at the game, the actual board, trying to figure out the exact way to win.
And time. Look at the time as well.
10 seconds.
And I just want to mention, so according to Chess by the Numbers, with a win here, Esipenko will have an 86% chance to qualify for the knockouts. With a loss, Ding will be under 50% chance to qualify. This is an important game. And can he clinch it? Esipenko.
I think he's doing everything right. As we look at the evaluation bar, it's going up and up with every black move. And now black is actually destabilizing the white queen. And maybe there's just nowhere good for the white queen to go. I think Simon's idea of black's bishop joining the action is going to be the deciding factor here. No matter where the white queen goes, I'm expecting it to go to the center, maybe in front of the black bishop. There will be a nasty check. And white is going to have to give up. OK, white's going to have to give up a queen. Or even better, wow, queen to e1. This threatens checkmate. Next move, the black queen is just going to step behind the white king, supported by its rook, and plus 100 for black. That means checkmate.
Wow.
There's no way to stop it. What a move, actually. Even better than the move I was suggesting. Esipenko, he's about to clinch this one, and it's game over. He can just give a check with his rook now, or with his queen. He's going to win any moment now. Checkmate is coming.
Be a very nice finish here as well, I think, with that king getting shunted all the way over to the side. But this is kind of what separates these players to other grandmasters. And, you know, even though I watch you play, David, you know, at this high level, it's that ability to calculate and finish your opponent off when your clock is hanging. I mean, a lot of players will just be shaking there and not being able to calculate. But look, he's having a little sip of tea there. He knows he's got it in the bag. Have that little celebration, you know. So, yeah, why not?
It's an important win for Andrei Esipenko. You can see him shake his hand. So happy about that result. 85% chance now to qualify for the knockout stage. And, what a finish to the game. It's getting dramatic for Ding then.
It's getting really dramatic for Ding. He started this tournament so well on the first day, but now the cracks are starting to show. Maybe it's that tiredness starting so early in those early hours of the morning, and losing with white. Ding nearly never loses with white. What a finish by Esipenko. It was actually about to be checkmate next move when Ding resigned. Really, really artistic finish there.
In 10 minutes, we will follow the game between these two, Abdusattorov and Levon Oronian. They are both around that crucial 8th place to qualify for the knockout stage. This could be the game that they both have to win to have a chance to qualify. Still, 2 more games to play in the preliminaries for all of the players. Only 2 games now to clinch a spot in the knockout stage. 2 more games to go for all of the players. As mentioned, this is getting critical, you guys. It's getting tense, and the players must be feeling those nerves coming up in 9 minutes. The next one, round 14, is coming up. Yesterday, something very cool was released on Chess24 Premium. It's Jovanka's new show, and in the first episode, she interviews Henrik Carlsen.
My guest tonight has been described by world champion Magnus Carlsen as providing the best support he could ever have had. He's been confidant, trusted supporter, business manager, and above all, he's Magnus Carlsen's father. Here to share his stories and insights, it's Henrik Carlsen.
I told people already when he was 10, 11, 12, etc. No, it's just a hobby. He's having fun. I'll support him, but he'll decide. Because already when he was 12 or 13, people start saying, well, what if he wants to stop playing chess? Yeah, then he'll stop playing chess. So,
and you were cool with that?
Yeah, of course. Come on.
Yeah.
He's putting in all the work. All the dedication. It's his game, basically.
Go check it out on Chess24 Premium, Jovanka's show, and very interesting interview with Henrik Carlsen. Now, I'm standing here by myself. Simon ran up to the loo. I think he's nervous because we were about to challenge him in the Play Magnus Challenge to play Magnus Carlsen at 10 years old in the Play Magnus app. And come on, Simon, are you nervous?
I had to just calm my nerves there a little bit. So, it's my only chance to beat Magnus Carlsen, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, let's give it a go. Well, I can't do worse than David, can I, anyway? So that's one good thing.
David, he did lose, but he did last 72 moves, was it? Yeah. So it's up to you, Simon, to beat that score. Are you feeling ready?
Yeah, let's give it a go. Right.
2 minutes on the clock. Here we go.
Let's go.
Simon Williams against Magnus Carlsen, 10 years old.
I'm very famous for my mouse skills.
You've got to click, Simon.
I've got to drag. Okay.
There we go.
Right. Okay, bit of a mouse slip on move 1 there.
It's okay.
I can't believe he's playing one of my openings. He's playing like he's playing the Black Lion.
Oh, those 3 pawns are fierce.
Does he not? He's not very good, is he, moving his queen around like this? You sure it's Magnus Carlsen? What's he doing? Amateur. How'd you lose to this guy, David?
Stop it, Simon. Finish him off, and then you can control me.
Okay, I'll finish him off. Knights on the rim are dim. God, this guy needs some lessons,
And it
doesn't
seems
he?
you've taken center.
I've got everything under control here. Centre, development,
King is safe.
move the knight back.
This must have been rigged. I mean, it's so much better against me. This is not fair.
Hang on a second. I think.
Okay, here we come.
Spoken too soon because.
Okay, are you reckon I'm losing this one? I'm not losing this one.
No.
Look at this, it's a pawn storm. They're
is a
coming.
pawn
Ah, bulldozer. Bulldozer.
You seem confident. Will we have the first winner in the challenge?
This guy's playing like a baby. Baby Magnus.
Simon, you're being brutal.
Look at this, just bring the queen in, checkmate's coming up. Did you actually lose to this?
And only
Did you
35
lose
seconds
this?
into the game.
How did you
crushing it.
lose? He's thinking. Is that allowed? Okay, let's take something. Oh, hello. Is touch piece, move a piece?
No, it's not.
Okay, good.
Got this.
Come on.
Oh my God, checkmate's
Don't-
coming already.
I know.
I know.
Wow.
I'm getting nervous now, though.
Crushing it, Simon.
I am, but I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I'm a piece up.
Oh, this-
I should have been checkmating by now, though, shouldn't I? Okay, I'm going to get the queens off because I'm scared.
Can you see a checkmate on the board here now?
I can see myself.
Oh no,
look at
don't play
this.
that. Sorry, I shouldn't be helping.
Oh no, yep. I thought that was really clever. Now David's helped me out here. Okay, but I'm a piece up here. But what's the time like? We got a little bit of time left.
Yeah. Still a minute left on the
still
clock.
a minute left on the
Plenty
clock.
of time.
And remember, Magnus is stubborn. He doesn't resign.
He doesn't resign. This kid needs to learn some manners. You know? Not resigning. Does he know who I am? I'm a grandmaster.
Ginger
Okay,
GM.
look at
Oh,
this.
Simon's got it. It's
Take him
guaranteed
down.
now. Not even a challenge. Wow.
They're all coming off.
Unless he can't do it,
Can
I
I?
feel so bad about myself right now, Jovanka.
don't.
Come on, pawn.
Go for it, Simon.
Okay.
Remember, you've got.
I got 42 seconds.
Yep.
Okay.
Doing everything
Crushing
right.
it.
Can I do it in time though? Come on. I'm probably going to stalemate, aren't I?
Ooh, you didn't want that checkmate in one move.
No, I'm just playing with him, you know.
And
There's not-
30 seconds left on
Hey,
the
mate.
clock.
Oh yeah.
For the first time, we have a winner. Simon,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Weak. So,
That
how
is
did you not win?
so
David?
impressive. Let's press continue. You won in 50 moves. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay,
Feels good.
David, how are you feeling now?
I'm half super impressed by Simon, half just really paranoid that it was rigged. It played so much better against me. Oh,
You did
well
help
played
me a
there.
little bit there. You did.
Only
There's a little
once,
bit of
only
rain.
once.
I've heard you done that before for Magnus, haven't you? Sometime? Is that no? Only joking.
comment.
No.
And look at this, Simon. On top of the table,
Yeah.
Simon Williams with a win in 50 moves against Magnus Carlsen at 10 years old. Is that the first time you beat the world champion? Or have you done it before?
I have actually managed to beat him before
Okay.
when he was a baby again, because you've got to beat these guys when they're young, because you never get a chance again. So, but I played him in a lovely Gausdal competition in Norway, which was a brilliant competition, and but he was about this high, so it didn't really count. So.
What a chess player we have in the studio. Fantastic. A winner in our Play Magnus Challenge. Now, let's take a look at the results in the Airthings Masters. Results from round 13. And again, a bunch of games ending up with a winner, and a bunch of them crucial ones. Andrei Esipenko, as we saw, he got a win against Ding Liren. So it's looking good for Esipenko now to qualify for the knockout stage. A loss for Anish Giri. Ooh, that's not good news for him. But Erik Hansen winning against Jan-Krzysztof. And it's looking good for him to qualify. I think maybe one game is still going on. All just finished. Okay, so here are the standings with only 2 rounds left to play in the preliminaries. Jan-Krzysztof still on top. Artemiev now in 2nd place. Erik Hansen in 3rd place. And Levon Oronian is currently outside top 8. We're also joined by Chess by the Numbers, Ty, Bruce Zimmerman. And what do you think right now, Ty? Who is under pressure to qualify?
So we have a group of 5 players battling for 2 spots right now. Giri, Ding, Abdusatorov, Oronian, and Lekwang Liem are all sitting between like 36 and 53% to get in. And only 2 of them can, unless one of the favorites slips up. We've got a couple people at 87, 92%. I'm kind of assuming that Keimer and Esipenko and Carlsen all do get in, which they should, though not quite guaranteed. But if they do, that leaves 2 spots for that group of 5. And so that's where all the pressure is right now.
Wow. I just want to so quickly ask Erik Hansen, how safe is he now with that win against Nepo in the first round today?
I have him at 99.6% right now. To completely guarantee that he gets in, he does need another point somewhere.
Yep. But one draw should be enough for him.
But his odds of getting another point are very high. And even if he doesn't, he could still qualify. He's probably even still at least a slight favorite to qualify, even if he lost his last 2 games.
Yeah.
Though I would recommend to him that he picks up that point and clinches it.
Wow. Very cool. But then in 8th and 9th place, Abdusatorov and Oronian, and they face each other now in the next round. Is this the winner in this one likely to qualify, the loser likely to not? Or what's the situation?
That's about right. They're both in that group of 5 players fighting for 2 spots, and whichever of them wins has a pretty good chance of getting one of the 2 places. The loser is in a lot of trouble.
Wow. Ty, thank you so much again for your insight. We'll see you again after this round before the final round.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, and here we go. These 2 in place, 8 and 9 on the table. What's happening?
Yep, the game has started, and the 3 of us here are very happy in the studio because it's the English opening.
Yay!
And one of Simon's favourite openings as well. Meanwhile, Abdusatorov using an opening line, a variation that brought him success in the World Rapid Championship. We've seen some early trades. Actually, White temporarily sacrificed a knight, but won it back. So it's level material right now, but it is a crazy position. White's queen has come out early. Black's bishop is giving a pin to the white knight, trying to break through to the white king. And yeah, it's wild. It's really, really sharp already. Both players wanting to go for that win.
Is that something you play in sort of the must-win situation?
Yes, especially what Levon Oronian has done. Normally, Black plays a more solid variation here. It's a risky one now for Black because White's queen is out. White has a central pawn. But yeah, it's clear that Levon wants to get that win. He needs to win, actually, to overtake his young rival now in terms of points. Oh. Simon, what do you think? I mean, you know a lot about the English Open.
I do, yeah. I mean, normally, I did a chessball course which was a little bit different to this. It was recommending you go for fianchetto on the king side, the Iron English, obviously one of the best courses you can ever get if you're interested. But this just seems very complicated. I'm trying to work it out. Black's weakened his king by pushing that pawn near his king. White's got the two bishops. It's really hard to assess, but if you need to win the game, you go for risks. You go for unbalancing the position, which is what we have here. So very exciting position.
Yeah, normally with such crazy imbalances here, it's the pawn structure again. It does favour the more experienced player, or the player who handles strategic stuff just as well as the tactical possibilities that will arise. And actually, this is basically a mirror image of what Levon Oronian did to Magnus Carlsen in the last game in terms of the pawn structure. White now has these two doubled isolated pawns on the c-file, and that's exactly what Levon did to Magnus in the previous game. And he's done it again. He's given his opponent these weak pawns. Ivanka, I see you smiling.
I'm smiling just for one reason, because there's only one game in my database, and it comes from 1934.
What?
And that was between Tartakova and George Alan Thomas. So what are the chances that someone picked up the history books and went, yeah, you know, I'll copy that?
Yeah, what are the chances? Do you think that's or is it coincidence?
I would be amazed if the players could name that game, but maybe we can ask them later. Who knows? Abdusatorov has been playing this exact opening with White for the last few months. Okay. It's been his main weapon. And Levon Oronian, if you look at the clock times, he's game time. He's up to 16 minutes. He has prepared this for sure. So maybe he's seen that one, Ivanka?
Maybe. It's not often that the most current game is from 1934.
I like it. That's the way it should be.
You guys.
Yeah, I do remember, though, in 2007, I think, at the European Individual Championships, that you were telling us that you prepared using some game from, I don't know, I'm going to say 1800 or 1900. It was some King's Gambit.
Really fashionable theory there.
Yeah, but I kind of like this romantic era where these ideas, these players, loved attacking, loved giving up material. Unfortunately, nowadays, with computers, you can't play as romantic chess. But I think there's a lot to be said. And you see some of the top players doing this, like Dubov. He does this regularly, where he tries to find forgotten ideas and brings them back to life. Ideas that maybe were played a number of years ago, at least, that are not played that often. And rather than following the fashion, I think this is what more players should do. They should try to find peculiar options and go against the grain a bit more. It also leads to more exciting chess. It kind of resembling a Dutch now on the board a little bit, David, as well, with his black last move, trying to bring the bishop out. Lev trying to get all his pieces nicely developed. And he's got the same pawn structure as he had in the last game. Remember, Lev was playing against Magnus's c-pawns, and he had a very nice position. And it's the same pawn structure here. And it's very important to learn about structures, not just openings, but what to do against certain structures. And here he's stopping that c-pawn from moving. He's going to try to win a c-pawn. So yeah, I mean, maybe this is, if White doesn't do something quickly, it's going to end up being quite good for Black here, I feel.
Yeah, and he did the exact same thing against Magnus, right? Not just the pawns, but he also pushed this one forward, later brought his bishop to the side to try and target White's pawns. And we should also mention there was a trick in the last position. Black looked like he could have gone a pawn up, capturing in the centre of the board, but this would have walked into a pin here. So White would have simply stepped the pawn forward, hitting the Black Knight, which cannot move because the Queen would have fallen behind it. So Levon avoiding that trap, dodging that one, and instead just pushing a pawn, bringing his bishop out to the side. And we have talked about the bishop pair as well, but White's bishops right now are not that impressive, especially this guy struggling to get into the game. So I'm wondering whether maybe Abdusattorov will think about pushing this pawn forward to try and at least activate his bishop along this diagonal.
I would love to place a bet here. Okay. So Jovanka mentioned that game between Tartakova and the famous George Thomas. And they actually are quite famous players, but it was 1934. I reckon Lev knows that game. If we get a chance to ask him, I reckon he knows that game. It's like one of those people who's got this great chess history. I can see Jovanka shaking her head there. This sounds like a bet we have. So I wonder what people at home think. But I reckon Lev is aware of that game.
I'm making notes. So remember to ask Levon about if he's aware that this game is identical to a game from 1934.
I have a suspicion that Levon is freestyling. And it just happens to be the choice of George Thomas from 1934. Well, they're still following the game.
Really? I think he's a secret Thomas fan. I think it's clear. He's, but what do you reckon, David?
I'm more on Simon's side here. Just the fact that Levon's playing so quickly. Also, it's such a rare line. This actually, I remember seeing several magazine articles and book articles about this line, and it's not recommended for Black. So the fact that Levon Oronian has picked it up must mean he studied it in detail. Also, remember, he played Abdusattorov in the World Rapid Championship a couple of months ago, just over Christmas, New Year. He lost to Abdusattorov in this opening, a slightly different branch of this opening. So he knew this opening was coming. He must have looked for a different way to approach it with Black. And it's very hard to just freestyle and come up with an opening off the top of your head. It feels like he studied it before, and top players, when they look for new ideas, they often go back in the past. They find what's been played before, and then they modernise it with the help of computers. So he might not remember the players of that game. He might just remember there was an example in the past. I'm inclined to agree with Simon. Sorry, Jovanka.
Well,
it's okay.
We'll ask him afterwards.
We'll find out. Yeah. And here comes the improvement. Well, in the previous game, from 1934, Black actually just developed the light squared bishop. Here, Levon is playing in a very confrontational style and is putting pressure on White's central pawn.
OK, and I'm just doing a bit of searching here. Apparently, the top computer move was this last one. So maybe he does remember that game. He's just checked it with the computer and improved on it. And look at the clock times. Levon Oronian up to 16 minutes. He still gained a minute from when he started the game. And OK, we're used to that from Levon Oronian. He does trust his instincts. He does play super fast these days. But it does feel like he's still in his opening preparation, or at least he's familiar with this type of idea.
And remember, everyone, This is the game between number 8, Abdustorov, and 9, Levon, on the table. A win here would be a huge step towards qualifying for the knockout stage. A loss, a huge step towards going home from the tournament. This is a critical game.
Yeah, I think if Levon Oronian doesn't win this one, he's basically out, right?
Yeah, must be.
Yeah, because Ty, just by the numbers, said 22, maybe you'll be in, maybe not. But if Levon loses this one, the maximum he can get is 21. He would need a lot of luck on his side to qualify with 21 points.
And he finishes off against Andrei Esipenko, who is currently on 21 points.
Not easy at all.
No.
OK, so this position, there is a threat as well from Black. Maybe we just jump in one more time just to show Black's idea with his last move, the first new move that we've seen in this game on move 15. And it's all to do with this pin. So White cannot go and capture this black pawn because the queen would fall behind it and with a nasty check. So there's problems on this file. White does have to support his pawn in the middle, but now once Black's bishop does land on this diagonal, it has even more scope. And yeah, the more I look at this, the more I think Black is in charge. White is the one fighting for equality in this game. It's all to do with these weak pawns as well. The white bishops are not impressive. Black's pieces are great. This knight is on a nice outpost. It will at some point force White to capture it. But if this ever happens, Black can even choose to capture either way. Then, yes, both sides have doubled pawns, but Black is the one doing well. And OK, slightly surprising. Black develops his bishop this way, but I guess Levon wants to put pressure on this pawn. What do you think, guys? I prefer Black slightly here.
Yeah, I mean, I've had many bad versions of this kind of position as Black because it is like a Dutch. But those white C pawns, the double pawns we pointed out, which Lev targeted in the last game as well, they're certainly something which is going to be a problem for White for a long, long time. The two bishops, they're not very good. I prefer the knight. I expect White will actually have to take this knight off, capture this knight. Whenever you've got an option in chess of making a capture, you just ask yourself a very simple thing, is my piece stronger than that piece? And I think here, if you have a look, the knight is ready to do lots of vicious things. White's bishop pointing at the knight is really not doing anything. And it's just a simple little thing to ask yourself, which piece is better? And if your opponent's piece is better, just swap it off. And, you know, then OK, Black gets also some double pawns, but his pawns are in a cluster, and you want your pawns in a cluster to defend each other. But yeah, I think maybe Lev could have taken that pawn in the middle earlier, but we have more exchanges here, David. And what's happening now?
OK, he's traded a set of pawns in the centre, so Black does have an isolated pawn, but I guess it's not as weak as White's, as these counterparts over here. So Black still has the simple idea of dodging a potential pin with his queen and then targeting White's pawn. I guess White now just has to activate his rooks. There's nothing else for it. These pieces are not doing anything right now.
Yeah, look at that knight, though. It's so strong. I mean, the problem is as soon as you take the knight, Black will get rid of his weakness. You call it a backwards pawn. It can't be defended by another pawn. So yeah, if I was going to be either colour here, it'd be Black at the moment. White trying to get his bishop in the game there, and Black centralising his rooks. So still fairly even though.
Yep, still plenty of life left, and Abdustorov will be aiming to play, maybe even giving up some of his pawns just for the activity now. But this last move, moving the white rook across one square, I'm slightly surprised. I thought the other rook would enter the game first. Now Black's queen can simply dodge this this tension on the E file, the key file right now, where all of the queens and rooks are lying. So yeah, I'm expecting the Black queen to sidestep, and still looks very healthy. Also, the evaluation bar not liking this last white move. It's natural, but maybe just a bit too casual, this last move by White.
Mm. And I do have to share with you a poem that was written by Dmitry Stanislav on Twitter, because it's about double pawns.
Ooh.
And it says, double pawns, make some noise. Push us forward, scream they loud. We'll be fighting in the crowd. Wait a moment, thinks a man. Not right now. I need a plan. Time has come. Exchange and loud pawns. Get out from the crowd.
Oh,
so, thank you. Very nice. Very nice poem. And I just love it when everyone contributes and tweets us using the hashtag ChessChamps. And we will feature them on the screen.
Yeah. And it was, keep the Poland coming in. We have Jovanka with her beautiful English voice.
Yeah, that was the most impressive. Well, the poem was beautiful, but that was really well presented.
Yeah, I mean, agree.
You know, if you ever need another job, I think theatre, something like that could be...
the next storyteller for Jack Nori or something. Does Jack Nori exist?
Maybe. Yeah, so,
Oh yeah, like those books that you can have. What do you call it in English? Audiobooks. Yeah. I would listen to books with Jovanka's voice.
Yeah. What about the mating game? Have you ever thought about
making
your book?
An audiobook from the mating game?
Bringing it to life a little bit.
Maybe. Yeah.
Good idea.
You guys are making me blush.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you do the main female in the mating game, maybe I can be like the main male. You know, I can be the cool one. You know, like, yeah.
There are some naughty scenes in that book.
We get David doing the naughty scenes, maybe?
Don't get me involved in this, guys. It's your brainchild.
Okay, sorry.
I'm getting images in my head. All right.
Back to the chest.
So the queen of this game, not the queen of the mating game, has just moved for black. So Levon Oronian, just as expected, getting the black queen out of any potential danger. And Abdusatorov, look at the clock times as well. He's got half of Levon Oronian's time, and he's got a position where white has to be the more accurate of the two. The evaluation bar is still undecided. It's still roughly in the middle, but it's easier to play with black because white has those weak pawns. And I do worry for the young Uzbek player that if he can't find a plan over the next 2 or 3 moves, he will simply get outmaneuvered strategically. It's all about those pawns right now. And I'm expecting maybe white's queen to move, white's bishop could jump in, maybe to attack the black rook, the white light squared bishop. Options for white, but options means you have to consume more time on the clock. And Levon Oronian just ruthless so far, just bang, 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 every move coming instantly. And, OK, a queen trade offered.
I was going to say, this seems like a very natural move, David, just moving the queen there, because black would now not want to swap the queens off, because we've mentioned time and time again how weak white's pawns are, and if the queens are exchanged, white gets rid of those double pawns, rectifies his pawns, and his bishops maybe come to life because you kick the knight away. So I'm thinking, how do you actually deal with this move? Because you're hitting black's pawn on d6. He has exchanged.
Wow.
I'm amazed by that move.
Yeah,
really?
I think we all are. Look how strong these pawns are suddenly. Yeah. They were so weak, doubled a moment ago, and now they're teaming up. The only justification is this knight jump.
But there's rook takes bishop, right? As well.
Yeah.
There's so much to calculate. I guess rook takes bishop can be answered by a recapture, and you're relying on this pin, Jovanka, but then the knight can drop back and take this pawn, hitting the bishop and defending the rook. I mean, this position is still completely fine for white, I think, after a trade here. White can capture it in the centre and the game goes on, but black would be pretty safe. So, I mean, it does feel so shaky for black. Those types of ideas, like rook takes bishop sacrificing in order to activate these bishops, they are in the air for sure. And white's rook can just move, maybe lifting up, maybe going this way. Jovanka, you've spotted another idea.
No, it's like I spotted lots of moves. It's like there's so many attacking moves in the position. You know, Abdusatorov has actually attacked the knight, but there was also attacking the rook with one of the bishops, taking pawns. Suddenly it's complicated, and I think it's going to favour only one person, and that's going to be Abdusatorov.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, with the bishops, you want to have lots of open lines. And previously, the black pawns were keeping the bishops locked out of the position. And white, from that previous sort of exchange, has opened up that dark squared bishop. The light squared bishop has opened up. Maybe black is still OK, but it seems to have favoured white this last 5 moves or so.
Yeah, white's only problem here, I mean, now these bishops are fantastic, but the only problem is how to activate the rooks. And at the moment, these 2 rooks are a bit dominated by this black knight. This black knight is a bit of a thorn in white's side, especially this rook really wants to enter the action, but it can't right now. The square it wants to use is controlled by black's knight. So there are some pluses to black's position. I agree. I think there's no risk anymore for white. White will have ways to bail out later. But, OK, first starting by trying to activate this rook by opening up lines, pushing Alice or Ari or whatever that pawn is called, pushing it forward, opening up lines for the rook behind it. And very logical move there by white. And again, the evaluation bar still not that concerned, but it does feel like the momentum has changed. And suddenly Abdusatorov is going to be so much happier with this position than he was just 5 moves ago.
Wow. All right. What is the most likely result in this game right now?
It's hard to say. All 3 results still possible. With best play, it should most likely be a draw. But
but it's complicated.
It's hard to play perfect chess in the rapid format.
Yeah, a big time difference as well. Levon Oronian's played super fast in this game so far. He's still got 14 minutes almost left on the clock. But Nordebek is down to, 6 minutes? My eyesight is getting bad.
That's right, 6 minutes. Okay, you got it, Kaja. And also, I mean, there will be twists and turns ahead because Levon Oronian, we talked about him losing. That would pretty much rule out his chances. But even with a draw, he would have to win his final game and his fate would no longer be in his own hands. He would have to win his final game and hope that the other results went in his favour. So he will be taking some risks as black in this game to try and win. And if you try and take risks, if things go wrong, if you lose control, then they could backfire. Meanwhile, black's rooks teaming up. Doubled pawns we've talked about a lot, but doubled rooks are a lot better. And those two black rooks now putting some pressure on white's central pawn.
Maybe there's a bit of a trick here because I'd like to move my light square bishop to attack that rook. I mean, that'd be the natural move to play, where I, try to use my bishops on the open board. But black has a good reply against this. Black can counterattack by using that knight, I think, and this might. Well, it does lead to an advantage for black. Black will win a pawn at least. I mean, maybe I was a little bit hasty with saying, oh, wow, white's position is so great. I mean, Lev he did something very interesting there, which I think a lot of people wouldn't do. They ruined their structure, but he's just basing everything like a computer on calculation. Maybe he's calculated that these lines are absolutely fine for him. And I think this is modern chess nowadays. People relying on their calculation abilities and not just their instincts a lot more than they used to because they analyse with computers a lot more. Well, that's always a good move, isn't it? H4, always, no matter what.
They're channeling their inner Ginger GM with this last move. Actually, as soon as you've arrived, they're just pushing this pawn in every position.
Is it a coincidence?
The Harry effect.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we should mention as well now, it's less likely that black will take this bishop over the next few turns because if all the rooks get traded off, then white is left at the very end with a protected passed pawn in the centre of the board. And this pawn now means that if the bishops leave, white is simply winning. This guy is going to tie down at least the black king or the black bishop. So black doesn't want to release the tension yet and trade everything off. So this is a bit of a useful waiting move, and black, meanwhile, has nothing better to do than centralise the king. A good idea in endgames, however, and Abdusattorov avoids any potential rook trades. He's getting ready to push both Alice and Harry, most likely, and still very tense, this endgame.
And with a draw here, Ty has just posted his qualification odds. And with a draw in this game, they're both going to be on 36% chance to qualify. But with a win here for Nordebek, he's going to be on 91% chance to qualify. And Levon, in that case, will be down to 8%. It's one of those very crucial games in terms of qualification. And another very crucial game in terms of qualification is Keimer against Liam Le. And if Vincent Keimer, the young German, wins that game, he will be ready for quarterfinals. So we're going to pay attention to that one as well.
OK, so he would be the first to qualify other than Nepomniachtchi.
Maybe.
Mightily impressive.
He's been so impressive. I mean, he's another one of the younger players. I mean, all the young players really have done fantastically well. But Keimer, he's not really mentioned as much, maybe as like Prague or some of the other ones. He's kind of forgotten, but he's taught by the great Peter Leko, who's his pupil, and everyone knows how fantastic Peter Leko is. And he's a real talent, and he's proved that in this competition. So it'd be good to see him qualify.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole event feels like a coming-of-age tournament for all these guys. I mean, we've talked about them for years. Prague has been on the radar for years, Abdusattorov as well, Keimer. But now they're all putting it together. They're all really giving nightmares to the top players in the world, the more established elite, like Oronian, like Carlsen. Wow, what a clever move that is. Is that a clever move? Black now can go and grab a pawn. White just leaving a pawn on prise. And just bring the king in instead. Let's see what happens if black gets greedy after this king move. If black takes this pawn, we would see a rook trade. And I think this is genius by Abdusattorov because look at this rook. It lacks escape squares. It's only got 2 squares to go to at the moment. Back to the centre, or to capture this pawn. And white can solve both of those issues at once. White can give a check to the black king. And when the king moves, now a pawn push or even a king move would trap this black rook. It has to give itself up for a bishop, and that is not enough. So Levon Oronian, he doesn't make that mistake, he doesn't make that blunder and fall into the trap that Abdusattorov set for him. Instead, he brings his bishop to the side, forcing a rook trade, and one set of rooks are off the board. Also, double attack. This guy under fire and this guy under fire. We do, therefore, see Abdusattorov try to release his rook. He's trying to get it open, and if it does somehow sneak up to the 7th rank, it will have targets.
I have a feeling that Abdusattorov might have been too clever for his own good.
Overthinking.
Yeah, definitely overthinking, you know, because it was a nice, fancy trap. But I'm looking at this position and I'm thinking, that pawn can now drop off. And also, if black is really, if white is really careless, then black will have a passed pawn there on the left. And that can be difficult to handle.
Yeah, this will be a passed pawn, and it might be a weakness, but it also could be very strong if it starts marching down the board. And note how this rook will no longer be trapped because it has extra escape squares on this left side now. So this bishop move by Levon Oronian may be turning things in his favour. And also the clock times still vastly in his favour there.
In the position you had there, David, was White's idea just play rook b1 and aim for a draw? I think this is maybe potentially what White's going for now. White realising that black's so active with a centralised rook. In rook endings, maybe the most important thing is having the active rook, even if you have to give up a pawn. And White's just trying to swap some bits off now and try to secure a draw. Possibly, that's his idea with this move.
I think you're completely right. And Abdusattorov, you saw him kind of exhale, like just sighing. He knows that his winning chances in this game are mostly disappeared now. Levon Oronian, if he wants at least a draw, he can just take that pawn, and I think all the danger is gone for black. White is the one fighting for his life. I think he should achieve the draw. We might well see exactly what we just showed on the board. OK, the black rook did go and grab a pawn. Black's one pawn up right now. We saw a trade, and OK, I'm surprised we didn't see your move, Simon, just shuffling the white rook across one square, hitting the black bishop and the pawn behind it. Instead, a check from White's rook.
This is a much riskier way to play. I mean, I think White realised that he could have taken the draw there, so it shows that White is trying to win this position, which is good news for Oronian, because Oronian wants his opponent to overpress as well, giving him himself winning chances. I mean, I'm assuming like the black king can now come forwards, and it could be another race, maybe, if White grabs the kingside pawn.
I think you're right. Black's king now. OK.
It goes backwards. I thought it was going to go forward.
Yeah.
Very greedy.
In endgames, I think 99% of the time, if you can go forward, you want to go forward. Activate your king. Here, black's king now is cut off on the back rank and won't be an active piece. Also, it just allows more checks. So Abdusattorov will just keep checking that king. He shook his head there, slightly surprising. Maybe Levon Oronian just wants to repeat the position once, show he's in charge, and then go active with the black king. But we'll learn a lot now. Will Levon Oronian take the risk, go active with his king, but allow some pawns to fall? He needs to win this game. If he doesn't, then he's really going to be up against it in the last round of the day.
Yeah, I mean, what is the risk involved, you know, because once the king steps forward, presumably the white rook won't capture the pawn immediately. Maybe there will be some little intermediate move just to chase away the rook and overprotect those pawns on the right.
OK, so let's keep an eye on the players as well, because we might see some reactions. Black's king now is checked. If it retreats, we'll see white continue to chase this king, and the position will just repeat itself. If Levon Oronian, in the current position, wants to win the game, he has to go forward with his king. But as mentioned by Jovanka and Simon there, this does come with risk, because this pawn might drop. Jovanka mentioned maybe flicking in an intermediate move, going for this pawn, I guess. This is weak, but black can defend it maybe with his own rook. But yeah, risk will be involved, because this pawn will fall, and maybe after rook takes pawn, there might be some problems still. For example, this rook now has to commit. Does it defend this pawn, or does it go and defend this pawn later? I'm not sure you can hold them both. OK, Levon goes the other way with his king. Wow, really surprising.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, normally you want to centralise your king and put it in front of your opponent's passed pawn. So this is a little bit surprising. But even if Lev loses this game, I like what he's doing. Also, I don't want to bring back painful memories for you, David, but I'm going to.
Thank you, Simon.
Sorry, David.
So kind.
That's what I'm here for. But I remember when you had a chance to qualify for the candidates, and your opponent played, well, basically for a draw, and you realised that, OK, if it's going to be a draw, I'm not going to qualify, so I have to play some outrageous risk, which you did. And OK, you lost a very painful game, but I think you made the right decision. You know, sometimes you just have to go for it. And this is, I feel, what Lev's doing here. He's making the right practical decision.
Yeah, he is a pawn up after all. If you count the pawns, this black pawn potentially might win the game, especially if the rooks disappear. It has no rival. It is a passed pawn. You just have to keep an eye on this white pawn from marching down the board. At the moment, it's fine because black's bishop covers the advance, but that could all change. So that is the risk involved for Oronian. Also, the black king, a bit offside, and you could definitely imagine it getting checked at some point and having to move even further away from the centre. So Levon Oronian trying something here. Still a draw is likely, but at least keeping the game alive, and that's what we like to see.
10th round, and look at Kostyaniuk against Erik Hansen. Kostyaniuk, she's lost all her games so far, the only female player in the tournament, but she could be about to win her first game, gaining 3 points. And that's not good news for Erik Hansen, of course, who is fighting to qualify, but it is looking good for him, even if he loses that game. But that would be nice, of course, to get some points also for Alexandra Kostyaniuk.
Yeah, I actually mentioned this to Ivanka yesterday. This is just always how it happens. I hope she gets a result at some point, but normally the player who's struggling in the tournament always gets a result against the player who's in form. Because the in-form player maybe just relaxes a bit too much, puts too much pressure on beating the tail ender, the player on the bottom of the rankings. Right. And that's when that kind of underdog gets the chances. So, I mean, that would be bad times for Erik, but Kostyaniuk, yeah, it will be great for her. I think the whole world is on Kostyaniuk's side right now.
Definitely.
So, OK, meanwhile, a couple of moves. Black's king forced to go right to the edge of the board. White's king going towards the black rook now. Actually, a big threat in the position. White's king, if it steps one square across, hits the black rook, hits the black bishop as well, and that would cause some real issues for Oronian. So I'm expecting him to move his bishop, but where to? Oof, this is playing with fire, actually.
It's quite tactical now, isn't it? I mean, this idea of king c3, I'm not even sure it does win a piece, but it's very close to winning a piece. But Lev's got what he wants, I think, here, from at least complicating the position.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that he has to do with the bishop, though, is he has to stay along that diagonal. Oh.
Yeah, I think Simon's right. This one is hanging by a thread, but it does, I think, not lose a piece for black. If White's king marches across now, the black rook will step back, and it's just about fine. There's going to be counterattacks, there's going to be tricks, there's going to be meeting threats with counter threats. I mean, I just don't like the black king. I mean, black's king is so poorly placed.
Yeah,
you have to watch out.
The white king can step forward as well, right?
Definitely.
Everything.
You have to watch out for g4, g5. You know, checkmate in certain cases. I mean, there's maybe some combination of White's central pawn coming through, distracting black, then creating some chances against black's king. But black is a pawn up. So, you know...
You're right. If you get 2 moves, if you're allowed to play 2 moves in a row, this would be checkmate.
Yes.
The pawn marching
maybe you could... If you're playing over the board, you could try playing it in 1 move, see what your opponent does, but you can't do that when you're playing online because it won't let you. It's a little bit naughty, I know, but I've seen worse.
The English school of chess, tricking your opponents.
I don't know about that. No, not the English school of chess. Well, I do know some characters who have done that. I mean, what's the dirtiest trick you've ever seen in a blitz game is quite an interesting question. I mean, I remember in Reykjavik very quickly that there were 2 grandmasters playing next to me. One of them was completely winning. He had he was like a queen and something up, but he only had 6 seconds left. And, you know, he was about to checkmate. His opponent, on the other hand, pointed at his clock and said, "Your time, look at your time. You've run out of time." But he actually had 2 seconds left. And by the time he realised, he was like, his time had run out. And completely cheating, yeah? So
is that
naughty.
cheating?
He was lying. He said, "Your time's run out." But the guy just looked at it, and I was watching. It went 2-1, and he was like, and it hadn't run out. So yeah, I mean, incredibly dirty. That was the dirtiest I've seen.
It's really weird you mentioned that, Simon. That's happened to me twice. 2 of my opponents have done that against me. Both times I lost on time. One was even in a classical game.
That's illegal. I mean, you should name it. Can we name and shame?
One of them's quite a famous grandmaster and commentator now.
Even
so
better.
Really
you can tell me later.
I'll tell you later, Simon.
Famous commentator as well.
This happened in Blitz. I had 3 seconds and a completely winning position, a rook up.
And he said this?
He said, "Time," and I looked over, and then he held my end of the...
What?
held the end of the clock.
Oh, my God.
I complained to the arbiter, but there was no view. There were no spectators.
In an official game as well?
Yeah.
He held your clock down, so you can't... That is so dirty.
And I was... Yeah,
what? So you can't press it? And it's like...
Exactly.
Wow.
I'm speechless. That is really nasty trick.
I'm very interested to hear who this is now. I'm really interested.
But also, it happened in a classical game where my opponent was just like, "Whoa!" And he just stood up. And then I looked at the clock. He was pointing at it, and it had 3 or 4 seconds. And I was just so in shock, I just froze. And
Gosh.
Lost the game.
That must have made you rather angry.
Dirty trick.
My hotel room was slightly trashed that night.
No.
Take it out on the player, I say.
Okay.
No.
Meanwhile, a couple of moves. So Black's bishop did run away to safety. I was going to show actually early on the board, but just to explain, White's bishop could have attacked the Black rook a few moves ago. The Black rook tied down to its bishop, but there would have been counterattacks against the White rook. So no way to win material for Abdusatorov. Instead, White's rook has kind of gone on an adventure, protecting White's central pass pawn. And meanwhile, Black is now giving a check, forcing the White king to commit. Do you step forward, maybe walking into more checks? If you step forward with the White king, which way do you go? Do you go towards the Black pawn, or do you go towards the centre to support your own pawn? This is really cunning kind of speed chess tactics from Oronian, forcing White to make big decisions with not that much time on the clock. This is one thing you should always do. As long as it doesn't worsen your position, give your opponent choice. And here, Abdusatorov only has really 2 logical moves, maybe, but there are pros and cons to both of them. So he will spend even more time trying to work it out. You can see Abdusatorov confused maybe about what he should be aiming for here with White.
Some interesting situations going on when we look at the bottom of the screen, all of the bars. Magnus Carlsen could be about to win against Shakhtar Mamdyarov. That's going to mean Magnus is qualified for the knockout stage. Duda, he is out of the tournament, but it's looking good for him against Yesipenko, and that is bad news for Yesipenko, who is fighting to qualify. As mentioned, Kostenyo could be about to win against Erik Hansen. What else? Liam Le, the bar slightly over to his side in that very crucial game against Vincent Keimer. Some interesting games going on, but this one is maybe the most interesting.
This one is still very tense despite the lack of material on the board. And now Levon Oronian, can he just get greedy and grab a second pawn?
Yeah,
Greed.
I think he's got to do
Bar
it.
jumps up.
Yeah.
If he wants to win this game, greed can be good.
Yeah, as Gordon Gekko famously said. Great film. But yeah, taking that pawn on h4, I mean, you should always look at the most critical move first, right? Yeah. I mean, if you can take the pawn, take the pawn. The only danger is White's e-pawn is incredibly strong, but the Black king can maybe just come back, I guess.
Exactly,
So,
come back, and of course the bishop that is sitting there all the way in the corner is doing a great job eyeing up the pawn. So together, teamwork makes the dream work, and I think that pawn can be easily handled.
I think no risk at all behind that decision, so we're expecting Black's rook just to swing across and capture Harry, White's h4 pawn. And as the reason I mentioned no risk is because even if White's central pawn does march up the board, even if you miscalculate something there, you will be able to give up Black's bishop for that White central pawn. And Black has plenty of pawns. You will never, ever lose that endgame, even if you give up your bishop for one of White's pawns. So is this going to be maybe a case of fortune favours the brave? Lev has been extremely brave playing on. He probably had to, but again, one of the biggest improvements I made in chess was when I just stopped having draws. You know, you're going to lose a lot of games, but eventually it's going to teach you how to play, you know, to fight. And you've got to fight in chess, and this is what Oronian is showing here. Yeah, you've got to push your own boundaries, right? You've got to kind of understand how much risk is too much. You've got to, I realised I made a big jump as well when I just stopped accepting draws when I was younger, just because you learn something, you lose or you win or you learn. So, OK, Black's rook now coming back after grabbing a pawn. He's going to go maybe up the board and try and stop White's pawn from the side. Really interesting stuff there by Levon Oronian. Now the Black rook under fire from a White bishop, and wow, he just pushes his pawn forward, his pride and joy, the passed pawn. But if White goes in place, bishop takes pawn right now, capturing that Black pawn that has just moved. The Black rook has access to a central square. It will swing back to the middle, checking the White king and picking up White's central pawn.
Nice move. Nice move. And my instinct first was actually just to retreat the rook to the 7th row and just keep an eye on that passed pawn. But this is such a nice trick. But OK, Nordebek just consolidates his pawn. You know, the bishop is on the perfect offensive and defensive square. It's controlling the promotion square.
Yeah. But also Black's rook, I mean, when you're playing against passed pawns, you should always try to get your rook behind your opponent's passed pawn. And Lev has now done that. He's got his rook behind the passed pawn, the ideal square to stop your opponent from queening. And he's got Barry, our friend Barry, the B pawn. People are going to get they already are, so sick of the naming of the pawns.
No, we love it.
Yeah, only if you've heard it for the first time. It's certainly not the first time I called it, Barry. But I think here, this this using the B pawn to distract is...
It's almost game over.
It's going to be too strong.
I know one player who is sick of the sight of all these pawns is Abdusatorov, because he's just running out of pawns. Black is 4 for 2 up in terms of pawns, and look at this. Look at Abdusatorov's face right now. He knows he's blown this one. Black's bishop now lining up against the white king. White's king is going to have to lose even more time, and Jovanka, I must admit, I hate the position of White's bishop. It's just not contributing at all. Badly placed.
I agree.
White's bishop and White's rook are both tied down defending its pawn, and Black has a runner. That B pawn is going to run down the board. It's going to cost White some material, and then the Black king can rejoin the action. Black has so many pawns in reserve for later. There we go, the pawn marching, and this Black pawn is actually even more dangerous than White's pawn, which is currently under lock and key.
Yeah, and remember, with a win here, Levon will be at 79% chance to qualify, and Abdusatorov will be down to 17% chance with a loss here. Oof.
It's going to be painful as well, because for so long he was, he had a level position. If anything, he was the one taking risks earlier to try and win, but then as soon as Levon Oronian maintained that tension, he lost control of Abdusatorov, and that can happen in endgames. And Levon just keeps it simple. Is it Tony Miles' approach?
Miles, yeah.
Swapping pieces off and now getting rid of the bishops. Yes, a pawn has disappeared for Black, but White's pawn has disappeared, and 3 versus 1 in a rook endgame is too much. 1 pawn advantage, maybe you can save it, but when your opponent has 2 extra pawns, it's normally hopeless. And Black's pawns are connected as well. This is just a matter of time now.
Wow.
Yeah, not much to say. Black's just going to move the rook out of the way, slowly use the Black king to shepherd the Black pawns forward, and it's going to be game over. This one is hopeless.
Totally. No.
Yep.
Look at the pain for Abdusatorov, obviously aware of the tournament situation. Giri and Artemiev finished in a draw. That means Giri now supposedly have 40% chance of qualifying. I think those calculations were before other results, but...
He's got to play Magnus next, doesn't he? Is that right? So
Anish will finish off against Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, big game, that one. OK, and talking of big games, Levon Oronian has just won a big game himself. Big result for him.
Wow. Wow. Impressive stuff from Levon Oronian. This is going to take him currently inside top 8. Levon Oronian, it's going to knock Abdusatorov outside top 8 with only 1 more round to play. But a bunch of games still going on here in, well, maybe not a bunch of games, but a couple of games still going on here in round. Can
we go to Kostenyuk's game? She's about to deliver checkmate and beat Erik Hansen, and she's done it. She's sacrificed her queen, and she wins. The chess queen wins her first game of the tournament.
Look at that.
Smiling. They're both smiling. And so, well, I mean, even though that kind of ruins Eric's talk, well, it doesn't ruin it, but it's good to see him smile. That's really nice. I mean, you know.
Now, and what a way to finish it as well. Just to explain the current position, White has just given up the queen, but after Black's knight goes and captures the White queen, White's rook is going to zoom up to the top of the board and trap the Black king in the corner. Beautiful finish, and she's deserved it. Perseverance, it pays off.
Yeah, and look at Eric. Of course, he's super disappointed because he is fighting to qualify. He is currently now in 4th place, I think. So it's still looking very good for him with 1 more game. But fantastic for Alexandra to get that win, to get those points. It must have been frustrating for her so far.
It must have been incredibly frustrating. She's actually on top of the fighting chess index.
Yes,
it means, she's been battling out every single game. And the games against her haven't been easy. I know Yesipenko struggled against her. And it's so great that she finally got point that she deserves. She will be on top of the world. Even though she has lost a few games, that doesn't matter. No. But what it matters is that you're resilient and that you've proven to have a comeback.
And Erik Hansen, he is now on 22 points. He's going to face Vincent Keimer in the final game. Vincent is currently now playing against Liam Le. These two are both fighting to qualify. Vincent on 28 points, Liam Le 21 points, sorry. Liam Le on 18 points, and the bar slightly over to Liam's side.
Yeah, so the first thing we do when we come to any new game is count the pieces, count the pawns, and it's level material. Here, it's all about the bishops as well. A lot of tension with those bishops. Actually, we just see a pair of bishops exchanged, and this one, because of the minimal material left on the board, should be a draw with best play. But the reason, I guess, the computer slightly prefers Black and that I would take Black here is because Black's central pawn, the pass pawn, is slightly easier to push than White's pawn. And also the black king may be slightly more active than white's king right now. It's probably not enough. I think white should be completely fine here. Nice move as well by Vincent, just stopping the advance of black's pawn in the centre. If black's pawn pushes now, the black bishop drops off. So that move, keeping some control. And suddenly, white's pawn ready to push as well. Still all three results possible, but what do you think, guys? A draw likely?
I think so, because the lack of material, as you pointed out. But these positions can also go very wrong. If one of the king starts supporting the pawn, you can see the black king can start supporting the central pawn, or the white king can maybe start supporting the F pawn as well. It should be a draw, but just play.
Yep, and those pawns are running, and now black's king does get a chance to centralise. And it looks like it's running into the crossfire, that black king, into no man's land, because white's bishop can move out the way with a check now from the white rook, a discovered check as we call it, but there's no effective square to put the white bishop.
I mean, we've got to look at the time as well. I mean, Vincent only has 24 seconds left, and, the pressure can get you a little bit here, so that's black king now centralised. We take black here. Maybe the black rook can come round to check the white king as well. That's something I'd certainly be trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it is still a bit scary. Also, you mentioned the clock situation, and I think that does favour Liem, because he's a former World Blitz champion. He's vastly experienced in these short time controls. I've played him online many times. I've played him in the World Blitz Championships. He is so speedy. And now, rather than bring the black rook across, he brings the black bishop to a central square first, also hinting that he might just capture the white pawn. I'm not sure you even want to capture the white pawn, because that would end up in a trade of bishops, which would help white guide the game towards a draw. But then again, the black bishop on a central square will be very, very strong. This is check, but you can block it with your bishop. Or you can
move your king, yeah.
This is maybe quite tough for white, this position.
I think psychologically it's incredibly tough, because the first thing that I'm looking at, even if we do get into rook ending, take a look at the kings. The kings are not, white's king is not great. Black's king is much better. But OK, here we're going to see it.
Yeah, and I think Vincent did a great thing there, forcing this trade of bishops. Yes, he's lost a pawn in the process, but now decent drawing chances. He's activating the white rook as well. I was going to say Vincent might have been having nightmares about a rook and bishop versus rook endgame, which he lost a couple of days ago against Esipenko. But now the bishops have gone, there's no danger of that. Liam's last move, though, clever, hitting that white pawn on the side of the board, and white's rook does not want to go passive, just defending that pawn.
This could be a typical mistake. I have to say, rook a1, Peter Leko would be screaming at him, surely, for that move. You keep the rook active. I don't like this rook a1. Surely this is...
But maybe it was forced. How else did he defend that pawn?
Can you go rook b8 and just check, just do something like this?
Possibly.
I don't know. If you play a move like this, it tends to go horribly wrong for you, I find.
Yeah, so we talk about active pieces, passive pieces. Black's rook is the active one because it can do anything. It can stay on the fourth rank, checking the white king. You can zoom across, check from the side. White's rook is stuck defending a mere pawn. Rooks are worth 5 points, but here this white rook is definitely not maximising its potential.
And I just have to point out, look how Le is handling the position from the black side. It's a masterpiece in how to coordinate all your pieces. He's using his king, his pawn, and there you go. He's given a check. The king is driven backwards, and now all it takes is for the black king to step forward, or the pawn, and every single piece will be working together.
It's the kind of position where white doesn't even want the A-pawn, because you want to be able to check the black king here, but the white pawn gets in the way. And that means, I think white might just be lost here, because he has no way to... he might be forced back even further. So, but I just don't like this rook A1, even though it's losing maybe anyway, I don't know. You have to keep the rook active in a rook ending. It's just the key.
Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I agree, because right now it just looks hopeless. White's rook still stuck on a terrible square. It's just a practical thing as well. If you have a choice, an active move, even at the cost of a pawn, or a passive one, always choose the active one. It will bring you more points than it will bring defeats usually. So now White's king has been forced off to one side. Black's central pawn will start to run soon. White's rook still passive. Black's king fantastically placed. And nice technique by Liem, just stopping any checks from the white rook from the front. So White's rook's going to have to lose even more time, kind of...
Zugzwang nearly, David, as well, because if you go rook a3, rook d3 is coming, so it's like, White nearly running out of moves here. So,
Zugzwang means, having no move that improves your position. Every move actually worsens it.
And I really wanted to emphasize, look at Lei's last move, that pattern. It's so instructive because sometimes that's the only way to win.
Yeah, very nice technique, yeah.
White had nothing else to do except abandon this pawn on the side of the board. He had to move his rook across somewhere. Nothing else to do. Now black is going for this pawn. It's a check, but black's king, look at this. It's just blocking off, shouldering off the white king, stopping it from re-entering the centre. And nice technique.
If he wins here, Liam Le, he's going to be on 21 points. We will have 3 players on 24 players on 21 points before the final round. And Anish Giri on 20 points will be outside top 8. Wow, last round will be insane.
So Giri might need to beat Magnus Carlsen to qualify for the knockouts. What a situation.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Sounds like it's the silver glittery calculator time.
Yeah, it was written in the stars.
It was, yeah.
OK, so now black giving some checks. White's king forced back again, away from the action. Will black just retreat that rook, keep that white king cut off? That would be very tempting to me. Lots of options here for black, though. You could just go back where you came from after that white pawn on the side of the board. That's winning as well. But you could even give a check here, just ask white what he's doing, and then decide what to do with the black rook. I could definitely imagine him retreating it to the 5th rank as well, keeping the black pawn on the side really well protected.
That's my poison of choice.
Yeah.
Move the rook to the centre, have everything overprotected, and then get on with marching the central pawn.
Yeah, Liam Le Quang has played this ending like really, really cleverly. I mean, this has been a great demonstration of how you keep your pieces active and keep the pressure on in what should have been a drawn position. But positions are very rarely dead, and I think a lot of people forget this, that even if it says 0.00 according to the computer, there's nearly always play left and there's nearly always ways to go wrong, as we're seeing here. And it was anything but an easy draw, actually, the position earlier.
Yeah, and that's one thing Magnus Carlsen taught us, I guess. Ever since he burst onto the scene, he was milking out these small advantages, turning them into wins in seemingly dead-drawn positions. And the top players, they've caught on. Now everyone's playing these games to the death, trying to trick their opponents into mistakes. And look at this black pawn. It's one move away from promotion, one move away from becoming a queen, and it's going to get the assistance of the black king as well. And this one is just a matter of time now. White's king, look how it's cut off by the black rook.
Are we going to see the famous bridge technique?
I think so, yeah.
Or do you think Vincent will resign before we get to demonstrate
I don't think black even needs the bridge technique here, Ivanka, unfortunately. I would love to see that happen. Black's rook come down to the 5th rank, but black's king is just going to sidestep, going to make a new queen, and that will cost white the rook. Vincent resigns. Liam takes the win.
Some hard lessons for Vincent. I mean, he's lost 2 endings now, which probably should have been drawn, but at this sort of stage, experience does help, and you've got to learn from these kind of really painful losses, but really clever endgame technique there from Liam Le Quang.
Yeah, and super important points, taking him to 21 points, same as Vincent Keimer. And the last round now, wow, that's going to be super intense. Do you think players are feeling nervous now?
I think so. I mean, no one quite knows what's going to happen, so everyone is going to be feeling a little bit nervy. I think some players have secured it, so Magnus probably is feeling quite safe, as is Nepomniachtchi, but everyone else, they'll either be feeling ambitious or nervous.
One more round to go in the preliminaries of the Airthings Masters, and we will follow the game between these 2 rivals, Anish Giri and Magnus Carlsen. Anish Giri is, as far as I know, currently outside qualification spot to the quarterfinals. He's going to at least need a draw against Magnus. He might even have to win that game against Magnus Carlsen to qualify. Wow, that's going to be a big battle. What do you expect from that game, David?
I know it's not going to be boring.
Yeah.
It's going to be full of excitement, entertainment, and Giri is going to have to take some serious risk to try and beat the world champion. But that will only lead to excitement for us.
Can we give them 5 minutes just to tweet at each other first? So just a little break there to get the tweet. No, okay. But what a match. You couldn't have asked for a better final round. You know, these guys playing against each other for a qualification place.
Yeah, it's going to be intense. One game is still going on actually in round 14. It's Yesipenko against Duda. Duda is already out of the tournament, but Yesipenko is on one of those players on 21 points fighting to qualify. Is he losing that game, David?
It does look like Yesipenko is in some serious trouble. He's a couple of pawns down. He's got a weak king. It's looking good for Duda, which is bad news for Russian fans.
Wow. All right. We are, of course, joined by Typru Zimmerman, chess by the numbers, calculating what's going on. You predicted chaos, and I guess that's what we're getting in round 14, Ty.
Well, I've had to restart my simulations several times as these last couple games swing. Whether or not Yesipenko can pull the 1 point for a draw out of this game actually makes a huge difference. But I'm currently checking what will happen if Yesipenko does lose. And we're going to have 6 players who are really in contention for 3 spots, it looks like.
Wow.
Nepo, Artemiev, and Carlsen are in. If Yesipenko loses, Erik Hansen's still around 91%.
Okay.
That goes down if Yesipenko draws. The tiebreakers come into play.
And the game just finished, Ty, and Yesipenko did lose. It was a win for Duda.
Yesipenko did lose. Okay, then my numbers that I'm looking at are good. That puts 3 players in, and then Hansen and Liam Lei are in good shape at 91 and 86%.
Okay.
But then Oronian, Yesipenko, Ding, and Keimer are all between 60 and 80%, while Giri and Abdusatorov still also have chances. So there's 11 players trying to get into those 8 spots, and only 3 of them have clinched anything.
Wow. Wow. Now, Anish Giri, he will play Magnus Carlsen. Do you have percentages for Anish Giri, his chances to qualify?
I have him around 29% going into this game. And a lot of that's because he has to play Carlsen.
Yeah.
That is the model largely being pessimistic about his results in the final round. But I'm curious, and it will take a second, but I'm going to try to figure out what his chances look like if he's able to win that game. I'm not sure if it gets him in or if he's even then still relying on tie breaks. So let's see. Looks like if he does win that game, he gets in.
Okay. With a win. Now, with a draw, what is the situation then for him?
I think almost certainly not enough. So that might actually be... Oh, maybe he has tiny chances with a draw. If he has a draw, he has to really cross his fingers and hope he's super lucky with the other games.
Wow.
He could draw and have like a 15% chance of getting in.
So it's basically going to be a must-win situation against the world champion. Now, just to double check, Magnus on 24 points. Is he 100% certain ready for quarterfinals? Oh, did we lose you, Ty?
I'm pretty sure that it's... I do have him in every simulation I've run.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Magnus has clinched a spot.
Interesting. Now, pressure is definitely on for Anish Giri. Then how about Ding Liren, who is on 19 points? Is it just must-win situation for him in his final game against Kostenyuk?
I think so as well. Let's see. Ding, if he only draws, I don't think he has chances. No, a draw is not going to give him any hopes. Wow. So another must-win there.
Woo, this is going to be an intense round, no doubt about it. Now, so we do have how many players? We do have 4 players on 21 points. Are you saying that most likely some of them won't make it?
Yeah, it looks like there's just too many players in that range, because with the players on 19 and 20, with a win being worth 3 points, if any of them win, they get to 22. So out of that whole group all the way down to 19 points, it's pretty much going to be the players that win their last game that are mostly going to get in.
Wow. Whew. It's intense. Ty, we're so glad that we have you here with your calculations. You're also the one who is making the tour ratings. How happy are you with how they are looking now, 4 days into the tournament for the first time with these tour ratings?
I'm feeling great about it. We saw a whole bunch of fluctuation on the first couple of days, and then yesterday players really didn't gain or lose that many points, and today it's even less variation. So players' ratings right now are very close to where they started the day and where they started yesterday. So those fluctuations were really got us trued up to at least how their form is for this tournament. And it's given me a rating base to do these calculations with that I think really reflects how the players are actually performing right now.
Fantastic. We love your tour ratings and we love your stats and your calculations. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on the situation before the final round. Ty, thanks for joining us. Okay, well, you guys, it's going to be a must-win situation for Anish Giri. Let's take a look at the games coming up now in the 15th and final round in the preliminaries. Praggnanandhaa, unfortunately, he is out of the tournament. He faces Vladislav Artemiev. Liam Le fighting to qualify. Now he plays Hans Niemann. Erik Hansen, as we know, he has big chances to qualify, but he's not 100%, and he faces Vincent Keimer, who is one of those players on 21 points. Dingli Ren, must-win situation against Alexandra Kosteniuk, who is coming from her first win in the tournament. Duda, he is out, and he now faces someone who is definitely in, Jan Pomniachtchi. Levon Oronian against Andrei Yasipenko, 2 players on 21 points. This is a super important game. And then Mamadjaro, unfortunately, out. He faces Abdusattorov, who is on 19 points. Definitely must win for Abdusattorov. But we will follow the game between Anish and Magnus, because it is a must-win situation for Anish Giri with the white pieces. What do you think he's going to bring to the board, Jovanka?
His famous preparation.
Yeah.
And I think it will be a matter of pride. He really wants to qualify, so it doesn't matter that it's Magnus Carlsen who he's facing. It will be all about getting that small advantage in the opening.
Yeah. What do you think about Magnus in that game, Simon? Will he just play his normal game, or will he be aware of, the fact that Anish's faith is in his hands?
Yeah, I mean, I think both these players basically want to kill each other, right? Of course. I mean, there's no way around it. Magnus is recovering, as you can see, quite tired. And will he just try to lock things up, the black pieces, knowing that Anish is going to push? That could be his technique. I think the last time they played, Anish won. Is that right? With the white pieces, I seem to recall. I could be wrong there. So it's going to be really exciting, whatever happens here. Hard to predict, David, I guess.
Yeah, very hard to predict. Last time they met over the board, at least Magnus won in Vaikanze, Tata Steel. But either way, these two players, they're extra motivated when they play against each other. We've seen that from their many, many tweets over the years. And Magnus, dressed in the black shirt, I'm sure he will want to at least try and knock out a potential future rival. Anish could be quite dangerous in those knockout stages. We saw that last season on the tour. So, yeah, even when you're qualified, like Magnus is most likely, you do have an eye on your potential future pairings, and he would love to see Anish eliminated.
Well, there is, of course, some history here from this past week as well. Everyone in the chess world knows that there was a Twitter incident with Anish Giri where he was hacked. Some nasty tweets were posted from his account, and it must have been a really tough week for him after that, with just bantering on Twitter with many people, and yeah, it just must have been a very hard week for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a man of many talents, Anish. He does so many things all the time, but when there's something at the back of your mind like that unfortunate incident, yeah, it can distract you, and it's hard to play chess when your mind isn't fully clear. So Anish, he's been playing better the last couple of days, but he did struggle at the start of this tournament, and he knows one big game now will decide everything.
And Magnus logging off. There might be the situation that this round will start a few minutes late because there was that game between Duda and Jespenko that lasted quite long, and they might want all the games to start at the exact same time, but it should be only seconds or minutes away.
Looks a lot happier now, doesn't it? God, what did he just... Yeah, something just boosted him there.
Yeah.
So,
some impressive facial hair as well.
That's no facial hair, David.
How do you feel, Simon, just in the minutes, in the seconds before a crucial game?
Yeah.
Do you feel nervous?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing you've got to learn to do is turning that nervous energy into positive energy. For me, at least, when I'm playing over the board, that's so important to do that. I mean, you can get so nervous that you can't think, but you've got to try to just hone it and get into the zone. And I think, you know, all top chess players, they're able to do that to some respect, and otherwise you just won't be a top chess player. It's as simple as that. So
mindset is super important. You know, rather than stress about everything, you just have to think of it as an exciting opportunity. This is a chance for you to thrive, and it's very important actually to change the way you see stress. Stress isn't debilitating. It is something that can be empowering. It happens.
And it has you focused.
Exactly, and just deal with it.
Now, when I'm about to have exams, for example, like the minutes before, I'll be like, remember this, remember this, remember this. Is it like that with chess? Are you like, remember this opening, remember that move, and then that move? Or do you just think about, this is the opening I'm going to play?
I think in an ideal world, you would already have it all mapped out. You'd planned it far in advance, just like with exams. But usually chess players, they stress out about it until the last moment. At least I do. And meanwhile, the game has kicked off. And it's the Spanish opening, the Roy Lopez. The moves coming very, very fast. And we've seen this plenty of times from Magnus Carlsen before, including during the World Championship match. And during the World Championship match, he was usually bringing the black rook across one square in this position. This is what and there we go, the rook does just sidestep any potential pressure on the A-line. And this is what we call the anti-Marshall. It's avoiding the Marshall Gambit, named after the American player Frank Marshall. And this position arose plenty of times in that famous clash between Nepomniachtchi and Carlsen. Giri must have done his homework here. Magnus knows pretty much everything there is to know about this position.
It's very interesting because Magnus was relying on this to retain the World Championship, and Nisha's had all the time in the world to try and find something from the white perspective, knowing that he must win this game. So it really is a battle of preparation. Can he break Magnus down? I mean, I thought after the World Championships, the consensus was generally that Black's a little bit worse in these positions, but you can't beat Magnus in them. That's basically what I gathered, you know, that Magnus is kind of like, you know, he's done his work and he knows that these positions are just about manageable. But we will see.
And what's exciting about Anisha's team is that they're quite young and they're always providing fresh ideas. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they've taken from the World Championship match and how they're going to pose Magnus some problems. And this is why Magnus actually varies from his move that he played in the World Championship there. He actually picked up his H-pawn, moved it one square. Now he's developing his light square bishop.
Yep, and this is why Magnus likes these positions so much. It's exactly as you said, Simon. Black has a small disadvantage and will do for the next 10, 15 moves, but you're super flexible, you're super solid, you have options on every turn in terms of varying your move order, and it's extremely hard for White to find a knockout blow, something direct. And if there's nothing direct, then slowly that advantage might fizzle out from the White side. So I'm personally a bit surprised that Anisha's gone for this in a situation where he really does want to win. It just feels like you're playing on your opponent's home turf. Yes, objectively, according to a computer, as we see the evaluation bar, you might have an advantage. It might say plus 0.5. It might even say +1. But in terms of practical play, your opponent is super solid. Your opponent knows all the defensive plans, and it's going to be hard to break through later. So we will see. But meanwhile, early days in this opening battle.
Oof. I feel the nerves for Anish Giri and for many of these players who are fighting to qualify for the knockout. And obviously, everyone's dependent on all the other games. I'm not even sure if they can see the other games while they're playing in online chess.
I think they're allowed in these tournaments to go and check if they want, but it does take a while. It does take a while to do that. Normally, when I've played in these types of tournaments, you're allowed to have one browser open, just your game, nothing else. But I think the players, they are allowed other windows just to check the rival games. That's the only way they know how to make decisions, whether to take a draw, whether to press on for a win.
Yeah.
But usually the players, they don't do that. They just focus on their own game.
Yeah, the time control, of course, is usually they won't have time anyways when it's getting into those critical moments. All right, few moves here.
Yep, a couple of moves, and again, but it's very logical plans from both sides. White bringing the knight out, and black occupying a square with his knight that cannot, at least temporarily, get kicked away. And white's knight retreating out the way in order to create a square for a white pawn to kick back the black knight from his half of the board. This is still pretty standard stuff, but Magnus at least gaining some space in the centre, some more influence by the black pawns. And yeah, this combo of the two white knights right now, perfectly defensive pieces, but they can also leap forward later on to attack. And yeah, from my experience here, I'm never comfortable with the black side. But then again, with white, sometimes the thing is, what do you do next? When do you push in the centre? When do you attack the black king? There's so many questions. And okay, Magnus, he's the expert. Let's trust him for now. And the black queen just sidestepping. Anish, it looks like he has done his homework very well, however, continuing the pace, just bringing his bishop out there. Maybe eyeing up that black knight. What do you think, guys? If you get a chance with white, will you take it?
Well,
okay, it's run away.
The question's been answered for us. Yeah, retreating the knight. Okay, limiting white's options.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is fairly standard stuff, as you mentioned. White wants to get this chance to attack, I guess, on the king side, and maybe white has an extra pawn break generally, with the idea of pushing the c pawn and then pushing in the centre. And it kind of seems in these positions, even though they're equal, it's the side with the more possibilities, which has the easier game and maybe the better chances here. But I would have thought Magnus would be just comfortable because, you know, he had a World Championships defending this kind of structure. So, and he knows Anish needs to win, so he doesn't need to push it too much.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Anish does bring his bishop out, maybe trying to eliminate a key defender of the black king. The reason white has maybe a tiny advantage in these types of positions is because this bishop is usually so strong. We often call it the Spanish bishop, because in this opening, this is the key piece. If black can trade it off or kick it back, then black's normally doing okay. But right now, it sits on a great diagonal against the black king. And for example, if black is a bit too careless and just makes a kind of nothing move, a move that doesn't improve his position, you could well see a trade on this square, and suddenly the white knights might jump forward towards the black king. Also, there's a nice hole in the centre of the board, a nice outpost potentially for white's knights later in the game. Meanwhile, Magnus forcing the white bishop, to commit. He's pushed a pawn forward, and if we catch up with the current position, yeah, he's attacking the dark squared bishop now. To take or not to take, that is the question. If you take, yes, you gain access to this square, but at least short term, maybe black is okay, no direct threats. But if you step back, that would allow the possibility, at least, of black pushing forward and trapping the white bishop on the edge of the board. This is always a dilemma. This is one of the things I still struggle with. I think I've struggled with since I was 5 years old. When do you push this pawn forward and trap the bishop? Because it does allow potential sacrifices.
It's very like the World Championships. There was a moment when Jan, well, I think Jan was with the black pieces even, and they had this idea where Magnus could have done the same thing and sacrificed the piece. But I kind of, you know, I like the way Anish is playing, but with this last knight maneuver, trying to bring it into that massive square in the middle of the board, and it's finding those weakened squares maneuvering around. But this would probably, well, this would work against me, but these things rarely work against someone like Magnus Carlsen. You can't slow maneuver Magnus in these kind of positions from experience. I mean, we'll see.
Just wondering now, because the knight has kind of retreated, and so I'm looking at this position, I'm going, ooh, you step backwards, I go forwards. I mean, is there any way that black could start advancing any of his pawns? Maybe even the moves that I'm thinking about is maybe even pushing the c5 pawn. It might be a bit too creative for my own good. And then the whole idea is once pawn takes pawn, then you go knight to attack the bishop.
Okay, wow, interesting. So hitting this bishop and now hitting this pawn as well. And if white continues and takes this black pawn, white might be a pawn up temporarily, but after this trade, then we see these two doubled pawns. It's the theme of today. Two doubled weak pawns, and black does have the bishop pair as well to target these pawns later. Really interesting there, Yamanka. So this is definitely on Magnus's radar. Personally, I think he's not going to touch these pawns. I think he will be reluctant to do that just because this pawn formation, which we actually see in the English opening, is kind of known as the Botvinnik setup. Magnus is the big expert here. He loves this pawn structure from the Sicilian defence as well. He gets it very regularly there. but also in this opening, the Spanish, we've seen him time and time again with the black pieces. Just keep this pawn structure, maybe plug this hole by using a knight later on, just retreating that, maybe even at the right moment offering a trade of bishops. And he loves to organise this pawn push later on, f5. So it might involve a slow plan, pushing this pawn forward, dropping back the bishop, maybe getting the king out the way. But Magnus, I think, long-term would love to just keep the tension and then later push this pawn forward. Another game springs to mind from last season of the tour when Magnus beat Levon Oronian in an almost identical pawn structure. So this move, it might well be good, but it feels to me as if it's just not Magnus's usual plan. So maybe he'll buck the trend here and try something different, but if not, then he might just maintain the tension and continue manoeuvring. A move such as this one is what I expect, at least.
And I think Ty's calculations are final now for round 15. This is the situation. So 11 players are fighting for those 8 spots in the quarterfinals. 3 players are 100% safe. Nepomniachtchi, Carlsen and Artemiev, and 92, almost 93% chance for Erik Hansen to qualify. But for then, Anish Giri, 28.2% chance. And Ty did tell us that it is a must-win situation for Anish in this game. And can we see that by his play, that he's just taking risks?
No big risks. No big risks yet.
Should he take bigger risks, basically?
I think the opening choice was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, as we say, Magnus Carlsen had this in the World Championships. Anish is just playing his normal kind of style. But can you beat Magnus on a good day in this kind of structure? I don't see it happening. I'm saying that this last move, playing the knight into the centre of the board, is something I certainly did not expect Magnus to play. But it makes some sense, because if the knight is captured, you stop the manoeuvre that White was banking on playing. So you take away the knight square on e3, and maybe we can just sort of show that on the board. So I guess that's why Magnus has taken the opportunity to play a little bit of activity here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this would be a strategic mistake, actually, to capture in the centre now, because, yes, Black gets doubled pawns, but Black also gets access to a semi-open file. This guy is actually a backward pawn on the c2 square, but also, as Simon mentions, more importantly, not just this, but the white knight lacks a way to manoeuvre into the centre. So I'm expecting to see maybe just the white bishop move. This bishop is under fire after all, and as Jovanka showed, OK, he does take. Ooh. Wow. I was going to say maybe just plant it in the centre of the board, later use your knight to back it up. But he does capture on the d4 square, and
surprising moves all round for me.
Whoa.
Because taken with the e-pawn, I mean, like, really? I mean, again,
normally capture towards the centre, right?
And David said you've got the open c file where the queen is. Why are you taking this way around? It's this is his idea, I guess. He's going c4, but really did not expect any of this.
Yeah, he wants to use all these pawns and just launch them forward to destabilise White, but White got the bishop out of the way before it got trapped.
I never like taking with the e-pawn as Black, personally, because it always gives White the chance to push the f-pawn at some stage. And those 2 pawns, well, I know them very well, because a chessball course I did recently, the British Grand Prix, this is the structure of the Dutch. These 2 pawns work so well together. And maybe even the white knight can come out g3 to h5, and I don't know. I don't know if I like this from Black.
Yeah, it feels like Magnus is trying to be ambitious as well, and maybe that will backfire. Meanwhile, I'm surprised by every single move in this game. This one as well, a bit loose. The general rule is don't touch pawns on the side where you're weaker. And here, this is where Black is trying to push. Black is the one initiating the play. So for White to push his pawn forward as well, very, very surprising. I guess he just wants to clarify the situation with these 2 black pawns. And most likely Magnus will decide to push. And we will see a situation where any endgame might just be winning for Black, because OK, he doesn't do this. I was going to say this pawn is a potential target later on. But then again, Black cannot access this open file because White's bishop stops the rook using it. So, OK, therefore, Magnus decides not to clarify the tension, and he wants to trade the bishops off. We might well see a situation after a trade like this, knight against bishop, but with a really weird pawn structure.
It seems like they're playing quite quick, and I feel that maybe it's the nerves we talked about, that, there's been this drama going on recently. It's obviously been very stressful on Anish and probably on Magnus as well. And, when you're more nervous, you tend to play quicker. And it just feels like they're making these big decisions very quickly, even at the level they're at, making these decisions. I don't know. It seems a bit strange making them at this speed.
And kind of the sin that I was thinking about, 7 deadly sins that David did some little promo videos for. Well, it kind of here, it feels like both sides are kind of being quite egoistic. You know, they're just thinking about what they want, and they're kind of allowing emotions as well as nervousness. They both want to win. They both want to show that they're better. And so I don't know, because otherwise, why make those moves so quickly? They're important decisions.
Maybe Magnus just wants to have some rest. You know,
yeah,
it's very possible. I mean, looking, he really does seem a bit tired today, and he's qualified, so it might just be like, right, I just want to rest, get ready for the next day. But there's a decision to be made here, right, from White. I mean, can White grab this pawn? Is that completely crazy? No, it probably is, because you can't open up D3, but I don't know. Maybe this B3 move from Anish was just a waste of time, it seems.
Yeah, that's a good question, though, Simon. White can well grab a pawn, and I kind of just ruled it out very quickly, but the more I look at it, the more I think maybe it's possible. White could just grab this pawn now. It would at least justify his last move, right? It would at least be consistent, and after a trade here and another capture, White does have these 2 ugly pawns, and as you mentioned, this D3 move, pushing the black pawn forward, at some point might well become relevant, just opening up this bishop to attack a rook in the corner. But then again, the rook will just move at some point, and I'm not sure Black has full compensation here, so maybe Black will keep this one in reserve, maybe activate his rook, bring it in at some point, maybe swing this rook across, and Magnus, I guess he's just not being too materialistic. He's just hoping that the position will open up for the bishops. And, OK, meanwhile, we didn't see that happen. We do see a trade instead. So a real central pawn mass here for Black. It's a bit of a weird structure. But then again, this knight, at least for now, is a passive piece.
Yeah. I mean, another idea, well, it's too late now, but I was thinking if Magnus was White, what would Magnus do? And I'm sure Magnus maybe even considering that last position, B takes, knight D2. Because one thing I noticed is Magnus is so good at finding squares for his knights. And you're playing with this knight against the dark square bishop. That also seemed a very promising positional way to play, but maybe not enough to win. And that's what Anish is thinking. Maybe Anish is thinking, right, I need to take that bishop like I did in the game because I need to create more imbalance. But you shouldn't be playing this opening if you need to create a lot of imbalance, is the other argument about that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So actually he goes for a similar idea to yours, but slightly less forcing at least. He's still putting some pressure on this pawn. Indirectly, he wants to capture it with his own pawns first. But now if Black blocks it up, which I think probably Magnus is reluctant to do, then the White Knight will re-centralise itself, and this bishop is just a bad piece staring at its own pawns. It's completely blocked, no future for that piece. So I think Magnus will be reluctant, definitely, to push this pawn forward. There's arguments, though, to be made for opening up one file at least, or possibly even push a pawn in the centre. This is very risky. I'm not sure Black's entirely ready for this, but, I mean, it just looks nice, right? Having as many pawns as possible, this pawn mass in the middle of the board. And the reason I say it's risky is because White's queen could come out, maybe attacking the base of the pawn chain. That would be a check. And Black's pawns are a bit loose. I'm not sure. Magnus will go for this.
Blocked it down.
He does block it down. Wow.
This is a little bit surprising,
Surprises
right?
on every turn, yeah.
Putting your pawns on the same colour square as your bishop is not supposed to be a good idea because your bishop gets more blocked in. But he does get a load of space over there, so I guess it's one exchange for another, but still a bit surprising there.
Yeah, for me, it was quite natural, I have to say. I mean, I was banking on the fact that the bad bishop is a good defensive bishop, and maybe there's some action along the open line. And also remember, Magnus just needs a draw. And why not simplify the position a little bit? And, OK, here we go.
Wow.
Bad
Magnus
bishop
really,
extraordinaire.
Yeah, Magnus really doesn't care about his bishop.
He's just got to go B4 and he's done the perfect pattern, hasn't he? He's like everything on the dark squares here.
Look at this. I mean, he's really lucky White doesn't have a light squared bishop. Yeah. Otherwise, this would be disaster.
I mean, if White can ever get his knight in the game somehow, White should probably win this. But is there any way White can ever get the knight in? I mean, you put the knight in the centre of the board here, game over. But maybe you just can't manoeuvre the knight. I mean, you have to create some weaknesses somewhere. F5 maybe is a square, but I don't know. It seems like only White is the one who might has chances here, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, Black's avenue of attack will be this file if he can somehow sneak his rook in later, but white won't abandon that anytime soon. And another plan for white could just be an endgame. For example, you could move your rook across, and if black just, for example, waits or locks it down, then you could bring your queen back and at some point aim to trade off this set of rooks. For example, like this, take, and then offer another trade. If you can get all the rooks off, you'll be very happy with white, but maybe the problem is that black will just park a rook on a square where you don't really want to capture it, because this would just allow a very powerful passed pawn. So it's really, really interesting strategically. It's not clear what either side's plans are or what they want to achieve long term, but either way, still a lot of life left.
Yeah.
And Anish may be a bit nervous, dropping lower on the clock than Magnus, and in the end, just playing an innocent pawn move. OK, Magnus going for a similar idea to the one I mentioned. He wants to take over on this A file before white does.
Yeah, so maybe white plays h4, h5, knight g4, f4. Sorry, there's a lot of moves there. But you try to do something on the king side from the white perspective, and you try to use the light squares on the king side, because black can't control the light squares on the king side because everything's on dark squares. And one thing to bear in mind, if you put all your pawns on one colour square, and black's done that, he's put all of his pawns on dark squares, it naturally makes the opposite colour squares weak, the light squares, so you can just aim to target them, and that's what he's going for. So he's going for this pawn push and going to try to put those... well, look, I did beat Magnus when he's 10 years old. I know how to beat the kid.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike some of us.
Yeah, that was impressive.
You've also sprinkled your magic dust on all the players. Every game today, we've seen the move h4 at some point.
I know, yeah, it's going.
On that subject of h4, Houston's Aft actually tweeted us a super cool poem about Harry. And you can see on the board there's been a rook exchange. And it goes, there was a small pawn once named Harry who had the whole white team to carry. He ran down his line and felt mighty fine when he turned queen and looked like a fairy.
That's pretty good.
Beautiful.
Nice work.
It is nice work, yeah.
Wow, you should write that out and hang it on your wall, Simon.
Yeah, definitely. The weirdest idea I had, actually, was I wanted to send Harry to space, and I saw you could get these, it's like balloons that go into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And I wanted to attach a camera to a balloon. I wanted to get a little Harry, just send him up into space. Maybe one day, crowdfund it. It'd be quite good footage for the show.
Yeah,
could be.
A lone Harry would just be a pawn. So.
It would be a little Harry venturing into space. First Harry into space.
You know you can buy stars, right? You can buy.
You can buy stars. It's kind of cheating, though, isn't it?
Oh, but whoa, we have a result, you guys. Andrei Yesipenko has won the game against Levon Oronian, and that must mean that Yesipenko is qualified. I think quite certain, but does it also mean that Levon Oronian is out?
Yeah.
Maybe not 100% sure, but it's not looking good then for Levon. Wow.
Wow, and only 20 moves. Levon making a massive blunder early in the game with white.
No.
You rarely see that, but fair play to Yesipenko. He spotted a mistake. It wasn't obvious, and he pounced to win that game. So, meanwhile, in this one, still manoeuvring around. Black has conquered this A file with the black rook, with the black queen, but what to do with it? That is the big question. White's knight, meanwhile, very, very stuck.
I have an idea of what to do with the A line, but it doesn't involve the queen or the rook. It involves the king. I think the king can snake his way and sit all the way up onto the B5 square, where it's safe as houses.
B4 square.
B4 square, yeah, sorry.
Probably a nice idea, that. So.
Definitely in an endgame if the rooks and queens come off.
Here it comes. I can't believe if he gets the king all the way to that dark square, which is B4, that would be phenomenal. And actually, pretty good idea, right? Because you can go. All the endings are probably going to be quite nice. And I mean, what Magnus has done here. I mean, we mentioned Anish has this control on the king side, but open files are so important, and Magnus controls that open file. OK, he's got to get the queens
I reckon
off.
the queens are going to try to come off, and then, once the coast is clear,
off you
the
go.
king is running. Yeah.
All right, well, the bar jumps up a little bit for Anish. With one game finished, I just want to take a quick look at the live table. Yesipenko winning that game, gaining 3 points. I think we can get the live table up to see the situation right now. So, with all the other games still going on, Yesipenko in second place. And where is Levon? 7th place. But then Anish Giri can overtake him. Ding Liren can go past him, it's not looking good for Levon Oronian. All right.
And also, I'm very interested in Erik Hansen, of course, because I think he only needs to get a draw, but I might be wrong. We need our stats guy, but if he wins, he certainly goes through. So, which would be great for his team of streamers online. I mean, that'd be amazing. I think he only had 5% chance, didn't he, to qualify at
when
the
he
start.
Started, yeah.
So that'd be tremendous result for him.
Incredible performance. Yeah. All right, a bunch of moves happening here. Do you see chances for Anish to win this?
Definitely some chances. I'm very surprised, I must admit, by this king march. Yes, it's the artistic way to do it, but Black's king is not entirely safe on this side of the board. And it does feel like White's queen is going to cause a lot of annoyance over the next few turns. Unless Black can get the queens off, I think Anish might be the one having the fun. And look what White's done. He's put his pawn on b4 before the Black king can get there. And yeah, it just feels a bit scary now from the Black side. If the White knight can somehow join the action, it's still not easy to do that, but Simon maybe mapped one path. The White knight at some point might drop back and to the h2 square, jump to g4.
I mean, I think you have to look at pawn breaks, don't you? And at some point, maybe this knight coming back and pushing the f-pawn, it just seems like a very natural way to play on the king side. And now that Black doesn't control that a file anymore, now that Black's king can always be checked, as it has happened here, it seems like there's, even whatever the computer says, there's quite a lot of danger for Magnus in this position, because he has to be very careful.
Yeah. Will we see a repetition of the position? Black is offering the queen trade. Anish has to decide now. If you take the queens off, that will only favour Black. And that is because this pawn is on a dark square. Black might pick it off later in the game. So Anish cannot swap queens. He wants to keep the queens on. But if he retreats with a check, this is blocked. If he goes forward with a check, this is blocked. And that would repeat the position. Let's go back to the players. If he wants to win, OK, he does keep the queens on the board.
Right,
no
nice.
queen trade.
And now he's controlling some more squares on the king side. This maybe important square g4 that the knight can try to get into to pressurise Black's king side. I mean, I think this is very uncomfortable for Black, this position, and I don't think the computer maybe gives it enough justice how tricky it is to defend from Black's point of view. Anish must be happy here, surely, in the position.
I just don't understand this king manoeuvre. Why is the king not back where it started? Why did the queen not just put itself on light squares earlier, stopping White's queen getting in? Now White's queen is in. It's all sorts of trouble for Black. And, OK, he's still solid for now. Everything's protected. This rook retreat just overguarding this central pawn. But it's, it's looking good for Anish if he can somehow enact one of these two plans, bringing the knight back, leaping it forward, or maybe even pushing this pawn now to open up some lines.
But you have to be careful, David, because Magnus's move looks like it was just a retreating move, but it did contain a threat, which is basically to step the queen back and offer a trade, and just try to pester Anish with that offer of queen trade.
OK, but then there would just be a check and... Oh, whoops, not that check. This check. And White's queen could escape the trade. So, OK, he goes for the second plan, the safer plan. I don't think you need to rush with this move. You want to prepare it first. He drops his knight back.
It's just torture for Black. It's absolute torture, because you can see Black is just losing a move, White improves, losing a move, White improves. This just seems like incredibly tough, no? I mean, when the knight gets the square it's heading for, White can push at the right moment. I just hate to be Black in this position.
Yeah, fully agreed. And Magnus continuing this dance with the queens, trying and hoping, praying that they come off the board. But Anish will try and keep them on if he can. And he would love to keep the queen on this diagonal, if possible, in order to stop the Black rook coming back down and threatening some pawns.
Do you agree with the bar saying 1.4 advantage? Quite a big advantage for Anish.
I mean, here in this type of position, I think we would just discuss Grandmasters. We would just say it's easier to play with White. White is the one who can take the draw at any moment if he wants. Black is the one struggling and defending. I'm not sure that will translate into a kind of concrete physical advantage in terms of winning material or winning a pawn, being +1 up, but it's definitely easier to play with White. OK, but repeating the position, this is the second time we've seen this position. OK, Anish needs to find a different square for the White queen. If he takes the draw and then gets eliminated, I think he will live to regret it. So he should keep the queens on, at least play on a bit longer.
I don't think he will take the draw. I think we're safe there. I think he will...
Oh.
Has he taken a draw?
Well,
that is
I'll
crazy.
eat my words.
Really?
What?
Wow.
OK, Magnus, meanwhile, smiling. Anish bailing out with the draw. He could have kept the game going another 20, 30 moves and then gone for the same draw.
Yep.
I can't believe that. You can just keep the queen going. Black's I don't understand that at all.
Black has no plan.
I don't understand it. Just move the queen all the way back, get it out the way, play small. Yeah, I mean, really, really strange decision.
Anish is sitting there looking at this. We will try to get reactions from both Anish and Magnus. Anish now at 22 points. Or is it 21? Sorry, 21 points, of course. It's basically not looking good for him, right?
Why did he go for a draw then? It's crazy. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, the way I always think about it is you should never leave it in someone else's hands. You know, you should try and do everything that's under your control, even if it doesn't work out, because then you can't, you can't blame anything else. So I find that very peculiar. That just very strange.
Especially in a position with zero risk.
Yeah.
I mean, he could go for that exact same moves. I mean, in 10 minutes' time when he knows what the other results are in the other games. But,
strange.
Struggling for words here. Barely understand that decision.
Yeah. You only regret things that you didn't do, not the things you did. So I agree, Simon.
Not sure about that, but...
Well, Magnus, on the other hand, he finishes the preliminaries with 25 out of 45 possible points, safe and qualified in a tournament where he has been sick. Oh, and we are joined by Magnus. And congratulations, Magnus, on being ready for quarterfinals.
Thank you.
It was a must-win situation for Anish, probably, then, in this final game. Are you a little bit surprised in how the game went and the opening he chose?
No, I think the opening he chose was normal, but I'm surprised he didn't play on at the end. I thought he was making a little bit of progress, and I mean, frankly, I had played pretty terribly over the last 15 minutes or so. So that was a bit weird, but that's really up to him to explain rather than me.
Now, how are you feeling today after a few days being sick?
No, I think I played pretty badly today. I'll have to play a lot better in the knockouts. But at least I'm there, which is the most important.
Are you, with the fact that you have been sick, I know you're very strict on yourself with your chest, but do you take some comfort in the fact that you do qualify quite safely here, even when you have been feeling bad?
No, I want to be better, but I mean, I didn't expect to play particularly well, but I'd hope to play better. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now. I'm through, and I have a chance to fight regardless of whom I face.
Obviously, impossible to say right now who you're going to face in the quarterfinals, but it's quite likely that it's going to be one of those young new players to the tour. Are you hoping for anyone in particular?
No, I'll take it as it comes, I guess.
And it is, of course, a new format. The quarterfinals are only played in one day. Will that be change your tactics at all?
Frankly, I've generally done well on day one of the quarterfinals and then struggled a bit on day two. So I guess it's not bad for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, Magnus, we wish you best of luck in quarterfinals, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Magnus Carlsen is ready for quarterfinals. He has made it to every single knockout stage in the Untitled Champions chess tour. Trying to get a hold of Anish as well. But all of the other games going on, the drama is far, far from over in the preliminaries in the Airthings Masters. And we're going to jump into another game, of course. I want to just check, is anyone... Ding Liren has actually just won his game against Alexander Kostenyuk. That means Ding is currently inside top 8. Esipenko, as we know, he won his game against Levon Oronian. All the other games still going on. Who is currently playing quarterfinals, you guys? What is it looking like for Vincent Keimer right now on 21 points, playing against Erik Hansen?
That's a very tense endgame. Yeah. Erik, knowing that a draw will guarantee him going through, but he's been playing for the draw very, very passively the entire game. He might well achieve it, but Vincent is going to try and win in that position. Very tense endgame there.
Yep. Those are two of the players. It's looking good for Erik Hansen. And we're joined by Anish Giri. How are you, Anish?
Hi. Well, in general, good. You mean? What do you mean? I'm good.
Well, I mean, how are you feeling about qualification? It's not looking...
No. That I messed up. Yeah. The qualification is not good, for sure. Going into today, I saw that actually my situation is not so good. I have to like 3 draws was maybe okay, but I wanted to win, to be honest, one of the games, to be sure. And I somehow didn't play well against Shahriar, and I lost that one. I think I was doing very well there. I was definitely not thinking. I think I was running no risk at all, but somewhere in time trouble I made a blunder, and then I was in must win in the last game. Now I think there's no chance anymore.
Yeah. How do you feel about the way you played in this tournament, the first one in the new season?
I have to say, I think I lost more games than usual. I won a lot of games. I'm happy with that. Like before the tournament, I thought that after win many games, you're not going to get away with the strategy that players chose last year. Like you win 2 games and draw the rest. So I was kind of ready to take more risks, play very aggressive. But I was happy with the wins, but now I have way too many losses, and many were unnecessary. I felt like the one with Shahriar today, they were a bit unnecessary, and some others as well. So I don't know. Sometimes. When you have got this mindset of fighting chess, somehow you also tend to lose more. But I have to try to find the right balance to keep the wins coming, but not lose so many games. I think I never lost in any qualification like so many. Like I lost like 5 games.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, Anish, I mean, about a week ago, the Twitter hacking incident, it must have been a very stressful week with a lot of stuff going on. How are you with everything that has been going on?
Yeah, and to be honest, besides that, things were much worse. Like we had, now everything's fine, but we had also some health issues in the family. So I was like in between the police station and the ambulance. It's not fun. Ambulance just to be sure. Actually, nothing big happened. But these days, you are extra careful. So and also the police had to be there because when hacking happened, I thought at first, it's all good fun and so on. But I started getting some messages, and I realized, okay, it's not really fun at all. You have to report to police and all that to be sure, that you have to make sure that you got hacked, and it's not you who went completely nuts on Twitter, which apparently was also something that some people considered. So there was that, and it was very intense week indeed. But now everything's good. Police has been informed. The ambulance is doing, they're resting from us. Everything's good. And on the bright side, even though I didn't qualify, I'm looking forward to having some rest now before the Grand Prix.
Definitely. All right. So with health issues and all of this, are you saying that everything's better now and you are okay, you and your family?
Everything's fine. No, for sure. Everything's fine. Just, I had an intense 24 hours in which I had to go to all institutions that exist, including the hospital and the police. So that was kind of very intense. And of course, but that's already a few days ago, and now I'm recovered. I'm happy with the with the chess, and I'm looking forward to some rest. I think the games were kind of pretty fun here, so I'm quite happy with with how it went. But of course, to qualify, I needed a little bit more.
All right. Well, we're glad to hear that you're doing okay, Anish, and we wish you the best of luck in the Grand Prix as well.
Thank you. I'm going to try to do my best there.
Thank you for joining us. All right, Anish Giri probably knocked out of the tournament, but some games still going on. Let's jump into the action. Erik Hansen against Vincent Keimer. The bar slightly over to Vincent's side. He is one of the players on 21 points. Erik Hansen, 22 points. Should be okay to qualify, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure either of these two players know that they are nearly guaranteed to go through now. In this game, temporarily, Black is 1 pawn up, and actually Vincent has been pressing throughout the entire game with a decent advantage earlier on, but with correct play, Erik should be able to guide this game towards a draw. At some point, he's going to capture Black's Harry pawn. Black has 2 Harrys. 2 Harrys are better than 1, right, Simon?
That's what I say. Yep.
But either way, there aren't enough pawns left, really, to try and win this game. Still some tricks. Still, Vincent has been pressing for the win. His last couple of moves have been very ambitious, but Eric should have enough time now with 3 minutes left on his clock to save this game.
And we do have Ty, the stats genius, with us still. Ty, what's the situation right now? Is Eric Hansen safe? And what's the situation for Vincent Keimer?
Both of them are in good shape, but neither one is quite clinched yet with 3 results that are in. Ding did. Ding is through with that win and with the other results.
Nice.
But I still have Hansen at 94%, Keimer at 91%, and Lay is at 89%. That's probably our field. Krzysztof and Geary still have fringe chances at 19% and 7% respectively if the last 5 games go in a certain set of ways.
Okay. So Anish is probably dependent on Liam and Vincent losing, at least.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay. Thank you, Ty.
Yeah, with 6 players are already on 22, so if 2 more get there, Anish at 21 is out.
Okay. Interesting. Well, it's looking good for these 2 then. More than 90% chance for, was it both of them?
Yeah.
Qualify. So a draw, but who knows if they are aware of that, the fact that a draw is probably good enough for both of them.
I doubt they're aware.
Yeah.
They both look fully focused on this game. I don't think they're looking at other results right now. But unfortunately for Anish Geary fans, it does look like Liam is in a position that he cannot lose. And yeah, in this game, Vincent is very unlikely to lose either. So Geary, it looks like he will be saying goodbye to the tournament. Meanwhile, Eric has been thinking now for a few minutes. What do we think? Is there any reason why he wouldn't just go and capture this pawn with his rook, I was going to say?
And he's just done it.
No other real options there, or none that involved unreasonable risk.
Well, it's strange. I mean, the position we're going to get, I'm assuming Eric is going to take that pawn with his pawn. There's only 2 pawns left. It should be a draw. But I think we mentioned pawn structures, and that's been kind of a theme today. We've seen it a lot with the double pawns, and we talked about compact pawns and separated pawns. And this is something I learned from, well, many players, but Keith Arkle springs to mind the way he played chess. And you can see Black's pawns are very compact. They can defend each other. And White's pawns are going to be split. OK, he's gone for a check, but the pawn structure should not change too much, I feel. And having those split pawns, it makes them weak. So you always want to keep your pawns compact if you can. But, of course, there's not much material left. So a draw should be the right result here.
And Eric, very surprising, he didn't just play pawn takes pawn, he gives a rook check instead. I think it's fine for White, but it was a bit unnecessary. And now he's just hoping that Vincent maybe goes towards the white rook with his king, because then the white rook will swing across and capture a pawn. It's a bit scary, it's a bit risky, but it looks like it's okay. And the black king has just retreated. And now White, I guess, is just going to recapture this black pawn. I don't want to let that black pawn live too much longer. It's only 2 squares away from promotion.
Yeah.
There's one nasty trick, sorry. If you take the pawn bishop a3 or something, there's a little trick you can fall for, you know, at some point if White moves the king or something, but, you know, or goes d5 even.
Yeah, so after pawn takes pawn, which has happened, you mentioning this one, Simon, trying to get on this diagonal, for example, if the king moves across 1 square, whoops, rook takes knight and a skewer. A nasty skewer. So still definitely some tricks in the position. And if bishop takes pawn, then I think Eric is relying on this pawn push.
Yep.
And just trying to break down this duo over here. And after pawn takes pawn, for example, now White can actually choose which pawn to capture. Probably both are fine, but Black is just running out of material. Black is still
bishop versus rook?
Could do.
Yeah.
Possibly in Black's dream scenario is winning. Well, giving up the black pawn, but winning the knight in the process. And rook and bishop versus rook. Vincent lost it earlier in the tournament. It would be fitting if we see him win it in the final game.
Not for Eric.
Not for Eric. But yeah, still some life left in the position. Yeah. I would probably just take this pawn as black and try and fight on, despite the fact it's very close to a draw now.
Yeah. And I saw a really nice line there, but OK, it's fine. I saw this idea of White actually sacrificing the rook just to give a knight fork. Okay, we're going to see it all on the board. Maybe I'll get to show my idea. So my idea is that after pawn takes pawn, the rook will give itself away.
I like it.
on the f6 square, and just give a kiss to the black king and invite some simplifications.
It's a nice move as well.
Really nice move. Knight forks.
It might just be a little bit flashy, but will we see it?
Okay, rook check. Put that rook in front of the black king.
No,
he doesn't
it's too
win.
flashy.
I mean, that would have been a great move. That would have secured the draw instantly. You're right, Jovanka. And it would have kept us excited.
Look at the time's a little bit... OK, got to keep an eye on
10
it.
seconds.
Vincent, yeah,
If
under
you
10
fall
seconds.
asleep, then...
If you fall asleep or if your opponent surprises you and get distracted from the clock.
But it should be now. Black's pawn's going to drop here as well.
The white king just steps forward.
Yeah.
Towards the black rook, most likely, or even towards the black bishop. Both are fine.
Yeah.
But, I would go towards the black rook, probably. Although, do we win this pawn? If the black bishop centralises itself now? Not yet. The white knight can step back, attacking the black rook, attacking a pawn, but then the black rook would pin it. Still some work to be done for Eric.
I remember once I had this in the British Championships, a position like this, which was dead draw. And my opponent, who was 2,300, he actually, he sacked his knight for the pawn just immediately, just thinking rook and bishop versus rook was a complete draw. And he just took it, thinking, and he offered me a draw. I'm like, I'm a piece up. And I managed to win the game quite easily, but I couldn't believe it that he just sort of assumed it was such an easy draw. So.
I found a way to easily draw that game. So I think that rook move was an accuracy because you could have just attacked the pawn and then go rook takes pawn again.
Oh, nice. Yeah, little tic-tac.
Yeah.
Tactic.
If you attack the pawn, the king would have come towards your knight, though.
Yeah, being complicated.
Possibly a draw. I mean, this position is still a draw. If the bishop and knight come off, it's an immediate draw as well. In a rook endgame, one pawn advantage is not enough when your opponent's king is in front of the pawn. So I don't think we'll see Vincent take that. But if he doesn't take that knight, there's some risk of some knight forks.
Ooh, in 4 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yeah, he has to not put his king on the wrong square.
Yeah.
OK, well done.
Okay. She went down.
It's like playing you, David. I don't know. Whenever I play you, David, I've said it so many times. You're like, I watch your clock. 4, 3, 2, 1, move. And it's like you do it so calmly.
Experience. But the older I get, the less I'm fond of...
the game looks like it's going to finish any second now.
I wonder if they're going to celebrate, or because it looks like that means that they're both ready for
but knight d5 should kill it here,
Yep.
Bringing the knight to the centre, swapping it off for that black bishop, and it's a dead draw. And as you say, Kaja, OK, he finds it, Eric, and no more risk anymore. These players are destined for the quarters.
They are. I think we can say that definitely a draw. 22 points for Vincent Keimer, 23 points for Erik Hansen. These two will be ready for quarterfinals, and that is a little bit of a surprise. They were underdogs in the tournament, but they have played some fantastic fighting chess. And one other game is also going on, Liam Le against Hans Niemann, and it's looking good for Liam as well. With a draw, he's also going to be ready for quarterfinals.
Yeah, and Liam looks like he's in a similar situation to this one. It's a dead, drawn rook endgame. Yeah, all rook endgames are drawn, that's the saying. And black's extra pawn here is meaningless, unfortunately for Vincent. But at least he pushed this one hard. He created some winning chances out of nothing. But Eric defended very well.
Will we see them celebrate, do you think? Oh, it's a draw, and we are not seeing any celebration. Maybe they just want to go check some other results first, but Erik Hansen and Vincent Keimer are ready for quarterfinals in the Airthings Masters. What would you have said, Jovanka, if I told you that before the tournament?
Yeah, I would have been shocked, especially Erik Hansen. I did not have him down as going anywhere close to the knockout stages. I thought, maybe 5 point... getting a normal result would have been expected because he's a full-time streamer. He's not really a chess professional anymore. But, full credit to him. He played fantastic chess. He took some serious scalps. And Vincent Keimer, what can I say? What talent. What a calm talent. And, he's had some moments as well, and this has really impressed me, where he's kind of really struggled. He's had some painful losses, but it hasn't bothered him. And he's just kept on going and come back stronger.
Yeah. Well, all games have now finished in the preliminaries of the Airthings Masters. And let's take a look. Finally, at the result, a fantastic finish for Praggnanandhaa, winning his game against Vladislav Artemiev, even if he is out. David, we have to say a few words about young Praggnanandhaa. Has this been the tournament of his life so far?
Despite not qualifying for the knockouts, it does feel like a big breakthrough.
Yeah.
He's still only 16. We'll see him again in future. And some of the games he won, I mean, he beat Oronian, he beat Magnus Carlsen, now beating Artemiev, some of the best players in the world. And if he can build on this, I think he will look back on this tournament as the breakthrough.
Yeah, Liam getting that draw he needed. Same with Erik Hansen and Vincent Keimer. A very important win for Ding Liren to take him to the quarterfinals. Jan Nepomniachtchi has a great tournament so far, finishing off with a draw. Yesipenko, an important win for him as well in the final game, knocking Levon Oronian out of the tournament. Mamedyarov had a bad tournament, but he does win the last game, and that means Abdusattorov is out. And as we saw, a draw between Giri and Carlsen, meaning Giri is out. Because these are the final standings in the preliminaries. On top of the table, earning $7,250. Jan Nepomniachtchi with 29 points. Magnus Carlsen, he clinches second place. How impressed are you with that, Simon, knowing he has had COVID? You've been down with it yourself.
Yeah, it's Magnus Carlsen, though. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't need to impress anyone and anyone, anymore. He's just the best in the world. But still, fighting through COVID and coming second, it's good.
Yeah.
2 world champions at the top.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Artemiev, he's also ready for quarterfinals. Yesipenko in his first tournament in the tour, ready for quarterfinals. Erik Hansen, the big surprise, a fantastic result. Ding Liren, ready for quarterfinals, and so is Liam Le. And finally, in that crucial 8th place, Vincent Keimer, who we are also joined by right now. Big, big, big congratulations on being in the quarterfinals, Vincent.
Thank you very much.
What does this mean to you?
Yeah, of course, I'm very happy, although I have to say that today I don't think my play was too good, but yeah, I'm happy it was enough to get to the quarterfinals, sure.
It definitely was. Have you been nervous today, knowing what's at stake?
Yeah, I think everyone was. Yeah, of course. I mean, with this 3-point system, so much can happen in these last rounds. And I also know it from last year. I mean, I played in a similar tour, of course, not as strong, but a similar format. And I know that the first time I had this situation, I just totally horribly the whole day. Last day I played horrible and lost more or less all the important games. And today, yeah, I didn't play too good, but at least, okay, 2 draws is more or less all right, I guess.
And Vincent, congratulations. Now it looks like you go through to play Jan Nepomniachtchi, who won the preliminary stage. What's your preparation going to be like for that matchup?
Yeah, okay, I guess it's really hard to prepare against him. I mean, he's had this World Championship match, which means that he is prepared really, really much and really also on a high level. And this is never easy to face, but yeah, okay, I will do my best.
And how does a match format like tomorrow fit you with the 2 white games, 2 black games, possible tie breaks?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, I mean, everyone knows that Nepo is usually playing really fast. Whether this means that Blitz is better or not, I'm not so sure. Yeah, I guess it's hard for both of us. I also know that matches are really tricky. I've had this experience myself that sometimes you feel like you actually should be the better player, but still it's really, really hard to play the match because something in the opening goes wrong, and usually you don't have time during the match to fix this, so it can be really important then.
And this must be a big day for all your German fans as well. Have you noticed any interest from them and them cheering you on to make it to the quarterfinals?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, of course, this is something I'm not sure anyone has really expected. At least I didn't. And this is something I'm really happy. Of course, everyone who plays this tournament somehow has this goal of reaching the top 8 and qualifying, but this is not, I didn't really consider it to be very realistic. Yeah.
We're so happy for you, though, and we wish you best of luck in quarterfinals tomorrow, Vincent.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. And we're also joined by someone else who is ready for quarterfinals. It's Erik Hansen. Big, big, big congratulations, Erik.
Thank you. I'm not sure I would say I'm ready for the quarterfinals, but I'm happy to be there.
What has today been like with nerves and everything going on?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. I was very nervous. The good thing was I start off with a really nice game against Nepo. Just got one of those I converted a good position, which I've struggled with this tournament. And that made things a lot easier because I knew that coming into today, 3 points might not be enough. So 3 draws, let's say, might not be enough, even with +2. But a win and a draw, something like 4 points should probably be good enough. And getting 3 off the bat was really nice. Gave me a lot of confidence. But then, as you saw, it went straight down because Alexandra crushed me. And I had a feeling that was going to happen because she had a pretty unlucky run. I mean, she's a strong player and capable of beating quite a few players in this field, and got me in the opening, and it happened to be me. And so it ended up being just a final round. Everything came down to the final round, and I was so nervous.
Ooh. Were you aware, sort of, when that game against Vincent, got to the later parts of it, that a draw was enough for you? Were you following the other results?
Yeah, I asked for a scoreboard to see how the other games were during the round, and once I had that, a couple of results came in. Anish drew. I knew that Ding couldn't catch up, and Levon lost. So already 3 players were, as soon as those 3 results came in, I knew I was qualified. If my math is correct, none of them could get past me. And there was 11 people going for 8 spots. So as soon as that happened, which was like halfway through the game, I was pretty sure I was in, so I was comfortable. But Vincent was squeezing the position, and I was still at the back of my mind, like, if I lose this and somehow I miscalculated the qualifications, this is a nightmare.
Yeah. And now you have, what, like 20 hours before the quarterfinals start. It looks like you're going to face Andrei Esipenko in the quarterfinals. So what will you now do before that starts?
I'm doing the same routine pretty much every day. Last time you guys interviewed me, I said I was like watching hockey or going to see a movie. The movie we saw was terrible, so I'm going back to hockey every night. And just relaxing. I'm just taking it a day at a time because everything pretty much since the first day has been a bonus. Because I already did better on the first day than my entire last tournament. So it's been a lot easier to play because there hasn't been much pressure coming into the tournament. I don't think anybody had pressure on me. I was a wild card, and I'm relatively inactive. So I'm excited. The game I played against Andre yesterday was pretty exciting. We're both really nervous there. It was a very sharp game. So I think that should be a good one. It's only yesterday was the first time I played him. So this will be, he's a player that I'm unfamiliar with. Most of these younger players, I'm closer to the Magnus generation, much closer. So I don't know most of these players too well, except that they're very good. And so I'll check what he's up to, but it should be a good one.
And how does the match situation, the format's shifting completely till tomorrow now, 4 games and then possible tie breaks, how does that suit you?
Yeah, in Canada, we don't really do matches. So I almost have 0 match experience in my life, except a couple World Cups that were just 2 games, didn't make it. So I'm excited to get some match experience in. I haven't done a rapid match like this. I guess I even have to look at the regulations. I honestly didn't look at the quarterfinal section of the tournament invitation. I have no idea the rules, the time control, anything, because I was just going to take it day by day with the preliminaries. So I have to reset myself now.
It's same time control, but 4 games and then possible tie breaks with Blitz and Armageddon if you are tied. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Good. Yeah, and I see you with your Canada sweater. What does this mean to you and all your fans in Canada, and of course Chessbra fans as well? You all must be just bursting with joy.
Yeah, I mean, my parents don't play chess, and they don't know much about it, but they've been able to follow your guys' broadcast because it's very accessible, and they're able to see that I actually, won a game of chess for once and had some good results. So it's kind of cool to have some family tune in, some friends that I haven't heard from in a while have been following this event. And yeah, it's been a bit of a dream. I'm still taking it in, but the support's been awesome. I think in our channel, shout out to the channel, Amon's doing coverage. There's been a lot of viewers, a lot of encouraging comments, a lot of people sliding into my DMs, no complaints about that. So yeah, it's been really good.
Fantastic. We're so happy for you, Eric, and all your fans, and thank you for all the fighting chess as well. We really look forward to the quarterfinals with you tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I like coming on, so no matter what happens tomorrow, if you want to interview me, I'm around. This has been very fun.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you, and best of luck tomorrow. We hope you have fun as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Erik Hansen, the wild card, or the underdog, making it through to the quarterfinals with some fantastic fighting chess. All right, well, that was it for the preliminaries, but the knockout stage is coming up. The schedule for the Airthings Masters. There is a new format to the tour this season. 8 days in these regular tournaments. We are finished with 4 days of preliminaries, and we're heading into knockout stage with 1 day quarterfinal matches, 1 day semi-final matches, and eventually a 2-day final to decide the winner. 8 players left in the tournament to fight it out in the quarterfinals. And 8 really fighting players, David.
Exactly. The quarterfinals, they're going to be just as fast, just as furious, especially with these young warriors. It's surprising that we had to say goodbye to Giri, Oronian, Mamedyarov, Duda, such big names, but the 8 remaining competitors, you see them behind us, they will put on a show for us. That is guaranteed.
Yeah, here they are, the 8 players left in the tournaments. I do think we have the brackets as well to actually see who will face who in those quarterfinals. Yeah, Jan Nepomniachtchi against Vincent Keimer. I guess Jan Nepomniachtchi will be quite a big favorite, Jovanka.
Yeah, just with the form that he showed and how quickly he's been playing and the confidence he's exuded. So absolutely, Jan Nepomniachtchi is my favorite to win.
And how about Esipenko Hansen, Simon? Who will be your favorite in that one?
I'm actually going to go for Eric in that one, just because the pressure's off him now and he can actually enjoy playing. Because today the pressure was certainly on him and he came through. So we've seen he's a very dangerous player. Andre's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but you know, I like going for the outsider as well. It makes it a bit more fun.
Yeah, and then Artemiev against Ding, early in the morning or late at night. David, who's going to be your favorite in that matchup?
Oh, that's difficult.
Yeah,
Ding, I was unsure about him. It was up and down, but he did end on a high. He did qualify, and I'm going to say Ding, but only slightly. Artemiev dangerous, though.
And then finally, Jovanka, Magnus Carlsen against Liam Le. What do you expect from that one?
Yeah, I checked their track record, and Magnus Carlsen is the clear favourite.
Okay.
But having said that, Liam Le is one of my favourite players. He's one of the nicest guys in chess, so yeah. I'm hoping that he puts up a big fight.
Yeah. Oh, wow, it's going to be so much fun to follow the quarterfinals. Before we say goodnight, we have something interesting on the agenda. Every day, David teaches us something important from one of today's games. So here is today's Lisoveta learning points.
As we say goodbye to the prelims, it feels fitting to check out a win by Alexandra Kosteniuk, the chess queen, and what a win it was. The thing we should learn from this one is to mind your back rank. Always look for your own king, always try and give it some breathing space. As Alexandra Kosteniuk here with the white pieces did manage to beat Erik Hansen after a bit of a mistake, but she was already doing well. Erik here as black had a saving resource. He could have captured the white bishop, and now after the trick that happened in the game, the black queen could actually jump back to save her king in the corner. However, Erik neglected the defense of his king. In the current position, instead of taking that bishop, he took a pawn with his knight. Maybe trying to go for the white king instead, but forgetting that after a beautiful queen sacrifice by Kosteniuk, queen takes b8, check, that now the black knight is deflected away, and after knight takes queen, this game ended in checkmate. The king trapped in the corner. So always give your king some breathing space. That's the lesson for today, but well done to Kosteniuk for a great win there.
Absolutely. Huge congratulations, and one out of many great games we've seen in the preliminaries. But maybe the greatest game we saw today, Simon, was with you against Magnus at 10 years old.
Well, of course, yeah, that goes without saying. But yeah, it was a bit of a rush one, wasn't it? I came running the game as well and everything. But yeah, no, it's been a great day, and the knockouts always, I feel, when it gets extremely exciting, because you know, people have to go home, and you know, there's also the playoffs as well, where it gets shorter time limits. So a lot to look forward to.
Definitely. quarterfinals coming up tomorrow, you guys, and it's going to be an intense and fun day, so we hope you guys will be back with us. Simon's going to be here as well, and we all will be back to follow the drama in the knockouts. But thanks for being with us in the preliminaries, and hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye!